Well, hello everyone. It's Jeff from midatlanticcraps. We're dual streaming over on Roll to Win's channel. That's Ed's channel. He's there in the middle, and we've got Gargoil all the way. I guess that's stage right, maybe. I don't know. But we're here tonight. This is episode 2, Mechanics and Science of Unraveling the Mysteries Behind Dice Influence. Welcome, Ed. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well, and I want to propose a toast to your birthday. It was like
Oh,
this
thank you.
week. A happy
Thank you.
birthday there to Jeff.
Thank you. I can only drink this stuff, but I'll do that.
Happy birthday. Oh,
On hand and hard ways.
hold it like this. No free commercials.
Well, birthday was yesterday, but I appreciate that. The celebrations continue. I've got another daughter to go have dinner with, and my sister's tomorrow. But last night was a good night. It was a good birthday dinner, and had a good time. So, with that said, thank you for that. Gargoyle, it looks like it might be the G show tonight. You're the man with the plan, and Ed's going to follow suit. I'm just going to be doing the moderation and trying to keep up with the questioning and so forth, and try to keep you on track. But do you have something big planned for us tonight, G?
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about mechanics from how I come up to the table, how I stand, I set the dice, what I'm looking at, what I'm tossing. Um, if you're not doing it the way I'm doing it, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's just how I do it. Um, Ed will probably show you how he's doing his mechanics when he's tossing, and then after that, I'm gonna go on the other side of the table over there and do some science stuff, and hopefully blind some people with science, and then show you a few tricks of the trade, and we will take it from there. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have questions.
Well, they do have a lot of questions, and we're being live right now just for just a few minutes. We're already at about 70 people watching, so I think they're ready to get going. I'm trying to get past the birthday celebration, guys. I appreciate you saying happy birthday, but I don't want it's not my show. I want to make sure that we get everybody in here that I want to recognize some people and say hello to some people. We got Mark Mad Hatter, H2O guy on Ed's side is ready to go. Mr. Yo is here and ready to go. Chris Demon Dog's on both sides. He must be dual streaming. Louise is with us again tonight. We've got Ben and SJ and Arnell's with us again. Unraveling the mysteries of randomness. I love it, Arnell. I love it. And let's see. Troy Rogers is here. Thank you for the birthday wishes. It's not about me. It's about the show here with my good friends Ed Robinson from Roll to Win Craps and Gargoyle. All right, the floor is yours, Gargoyle. Let's get started. Whatever
All
you
right.
want to do.
So before we get started, oh Ed, you want to see something?
Yeah,
You good?
of course.
All right. So you want to go ahead and zoom in on. There you go. Thanks, Jeff. So before we start, um, I want to see which. This is probably the better camera. The chips came in.
Ah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, you can send me an email at originalgargoyle, one word, at gmail.com. Send me an email with your address, and I will send them out. So it's original gargoyle, one word, at gmail.com. So, alrighty. Um, the series after this one will be about mindfulness, and a lot of the things that I do before I get on the table, I'll cover in that series. But basically, let's say I'm here, I bought in and everything else, and I'm ready to roll. So for me, there are two ways I stand and toss the dice. If I'm using a underhand par or anything that's close to me here on my hip, I usually stand facing the back wall. That way I don't have to worry about it. If I'm using anything that I need to be away from my hip, away from the table, then I go like this and then I turn. So now, and I'll show you. And in both stands, in the way I stand, um, I either have both of my my feet on my tiptoes. I tried to put a fourth camera to show you what I do, but it wouldn't register. But I'm either on both my feet up high or on one with one leg behind. Now you guys can't see it, but it's pretty much, that way. So I'll show you first, like the par shot that I do. So I've already counted the steps. I know where my position is, and I know where my right foot is going to be. So when the dice comes to me, the first thing I do is I always put my left hand here. My left hand never leaves this position, and each step in the process is a step. And at any given time, if I need to redo something, or if something happens that I need to stop, I whatever I am, I put and I go back, because I would start all over, because it's a 5-step process for me. So when the dice comes to me, I just take a deep breath and let it go, and I get ready with my stand. And when I do this, and I go down to pick up the dice, I don't worry about how I'm standing anymore. All that is done. I'm standing, and I stay like that until I'm done. So I look at the dice and I figure out what I need to set. So let's say I'm going to set for 1-5, 1-5. Just okay. This is done. Then I go down on my grip, and we'll talk about grip here in a second. But I go down on my grip and I make sure I have it. And then I come here. At that point, I'm not worried about the dice. I'm not worried about anything. I just take a 1 or 2 second, and then I release. So it's a 5-step process. And if I'm doing it for, let's say, the regular par toss, I come in on both of my toes and I go over. Reason why I go over is because I want to make sure that I'm straight to the back wall with my hand. So if I come here, I'm straight to the back wall. I'm not like this. I'm like this. And then I can just roll to the back wall. Or if I'm using my drop shot, which is my no spin shot, most of my shots are no spins. So if I'm using my drop shot, I stand on my right leg, right toe, and I set the dice, and then everything, my whole body turns. Everything turns like this. And now I'm straight, and I just go like that.
By the way,
So,
G, your landing zone camera may not be working unless
my
you're just
landing
extremely short.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. So while G's going to try to fix that camera, we'll see if that's an issue or not. I didn't mention, guys, we're going to do a question and answer period a little bit later on. I see a couple questions that have come in here. Please premise them with a capital Q and a semicolon or colon, and then we'll get to them. I know there's a couple questions coming in, but we want to get through this portion of it, and we've got plenty of time for some answers. Can you check your back camera there, G, and see if it's working? We are seeing nothing on the back camera.
It is froze just on the screen is all.
Yeah, just on the screen. I was wondering where the dice were going.
all right,
So,
hang on.
yeah, no problem. This
Could
is
be an
technical.
OBS issue. If I ever have a camera freezing OBS, I can't get it unstuck without exiting OBS.
Well, if G has to leave and come back, he can. We can fill with time.
Yeah,
If you want to,
let me.
if you want to do that, G,
let me
just go ahead
come
and
back real quick.
kick
I'm
back
gonna
out.
close out the OBS.
Yeah, we'll see you when you come back in. That is, I mean, it's like I said today on my daytime show that
Ed,
we're all.
Ed can go ahead and show how he does it, and then I can come back in
Yep.
here.
Well, we were going to fill the time. If you go ahead and back out and come back in, we'll see if it's working then to get the camera up and working. But I said today, Ed, on my show that all of our live streams, we're at the mercy of some very primitive technology that seems to work. We're not a commercial broadcast company, and the weakest link can cause a problem in a live stream. As it can when you record as well.
Yeah.
But tonight's about mechanics, Ed. We were talking in the green room prior to going live, and you had made mention that people have watched you throw mechanically wise for years now. And I know you have some tips, but from a standpoint of mechanics and science, I think we've got a lot of people that want to see this.
I mean, I can move the camera around over to that side and kind of show you a little bit, but the main thing is, you see a lot of people. I see them a lot of times, especially in classes, and that's when the stick comes in handy because I pop them on the wrist. They're leaning on the rail and then trying to shoot down. That is, leaning on the rail and just trying to, that's for drunks at 2 a.m. That's not for anybody who's trying to have an influential toss at all.
It's working now, Jay. Keep talking, Ed. Keep talking.
You gotta have certain. I have certain things I do as well. I mean, I walk up to the table. I'm just like G. We're all taught the same way. You grab a hold of that left rail and you pull yourself right into the vinyl, right into the cushion of the rail, and you stay there. I stay there. I don't even move. I mean, the only time I move is when I intentionally throw the dice off the table so I can back up, maybe move my legs a little bit, but I go right back to the same spot, same stance. My feet are about shoulder width, almost a good football stance for those that played football years ago as far as your feet are concerned. You grab a hold of that left rail. I'm tall enough, I just bend right on over and I look straight down the pass line and look at where I'm trying to land the dice. After I've got the dice set in my hand, I don't look at them. I might look down just to make sure they're square, but quite frankly, I've gotten to where I can tell if they're square just by feel now. So I hardly ever look back down once I do that. And the other thing I do, and y'all seen me do it all the time in the videos, is I set the dice on a square line or on a straight line, if at all possible, on a table, so that my dice start off there. That's just something I picked up on myself doing. It's not. Not every table is going to have a line that you can reach down and grab. I've seen some tables where the pass line's way out there in the middle. So it just depends on what table you're on. But if you got a line, set your 2 dice down on that line, get them square on that line before you pick them up. Then you can come back and you still be square.
All right. Looks like we've got G back now in the landing zone, so we'll switch to this screen. G, yeah. I want to remind the viewers on both channels, we're dual streaming Mid-Atlantic Craps and over on Roll to Win Craps, that if you're going to ask a question, please put it a capital Q. We're going to come back to them, so probably an hour from now when I get to the questions, I may not be able to queue them up. So keep your questions in mind as we get going. Please put a capital Q, a colon, and then a space. The software will change colors for me and I can get it. But Jay, back to you. Go ahead. Your landing zone seemed to be working a second ago.
All right, good. So anyway, I hug the table a lot, and so I'm either like this or I'm like that. So and I try to stay away from the stick guide. So that's why I use this hand a lot. But when it comes to the grip, your traditional, par grip, whatever the dice is, and you can see how fast I grip that, because it's all embedded. But to kind of walk you through it, and I just want to make sure that, okay, yeah, the camera can see it. Good. People don't realize that there's motion in your hand this way, up, down, and side to side. And sometimes when you think you're grabbing the dice the right way, you're not. It's human nature to grab the dice this way, but this is at an angle. What I do is, if I'm doing a par toss or something, I just come down straight like that, and then bend my fingers. So now my fingers are straight. So when I come down straight, and I don't know if you can see it through the zoom camera, but when I come down straight, the you see the thumb right here has a lot of play. Thumb placement is very important. If you're not putting your thumb where it's supposed to be, then you're either splitting the dice or one die is going off and back up or going all the way to the right. So when what I do is, when I come down and I gotta rest my leg because I can't help it but stand up like that when I'm setting the dice. I can't do it normally. I'm gonna try. I can't do it. I gotta go back up. So when I come down, and as soon as I grab it, I press down. I don't move the dice five different places to get my hand on it so just right. My opinion, I believe that as soon as you grab the dice, you need to get rid of it because the longer you hold on to it, the more volatility or dice split you cause. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of splitting. See, it just splits. Um, the size of your fingers matter. Size matters, I guess. If you have fat fingers, you can go down all the way on the dice on the table and hold it. But if you have skinny fingers like mine, as soon as I do that, the dice will start splitting. Plus, I sweat, so I try to stay skinny. If you don't sweat a lot and you have big fingers, going, like holding it like this would is a good thing. But for me, I have to adjust, and it took me a while. Um, Dice coach helped me with how to figure out how to do that, and then Howard um, took it to the next level with the grip. So my grip is pretty much, and if you go like that, you can see it's where the sixes are, and it took me less than 2 seconds. It's just nature. It's just muscle memory and everything. Now I always go from the deck because the deck doesn't move. Again, it is in my opinion that if you do anything from this way or that way, or you're causing randomness in your throw. And I don't care how good you are with getting the dice to where you want, right here, or your swing, you're not going to do that every time 100%. You may be here one day or one throw, and the next toss you may be maybe 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters here. Now, does that affect anything? I don't know, but it's not the same. You know, 50 inches or 49.999 is not the same. So I always go from the deck. And honestly, back swinging and all this is to me, I've seen more people 7 out doing that crap than anybody else. But I'll leave that alone. I go from the deck. The other thing that I want to say from a mechanical perspective, you gotta pick a landing zone and hit your landing zone. Landing zone is important. If you go watch my tosses back when Jeff and Ed and I did crapsies and stuff like that, my landing zone, and I hope this camera is still working.
It is.
It is.
Good. My landing zone is either here, or if I'm doing the drop shot, it's here. You can go by now. The dice would go all over the place, but because I'm trying to figure out the bouncy table, but my landing zone is the same. Now, why is that important? Well, number one, you gotta get a baseline. You gotta be consistent in where you're throwing the dice. Depending on the shot, some may say the whole table is their landing zone because they're doing a certain shot. Well, I'm doing different shots and I have to pick a landing zone and I have to adjust the velocity of the dice and how far and how hard it's going to hit the back wall depending on the bounciness of the dice. Now, why is that important also? Well, let's say that I set the hard ways and I throw the dice over here and I get a 257. I know, but let's say I get a 257. Okay, well, it double pitched. Then maybe I need to do something else. So I do something else, and now I throw the dice over there, and I hit a 7. 99% of the people on YouTube that I see do that start changing sets. It's not your freaking set, it's your freaking toss. Not, it's not the set fault that you 7 out. It's because you set the dice based on how you threw it over there, not in that corner. You shouldn't change dice set. You should say, you know what? I'm going to concentrate on throwing it here and see if I get the 7 again. Consistent landing zone gives you a baseline so that you can figure out what dice set to use. I said it before and I'll say it again. I am not a believer in changing dice sets in the middle of the roll. If I show up to a table, then that's my opinion. Again, that's what I do. It's my opinions. That's not fact. Don't start hating on me. This is just what I do in my opinion. Um, if my first roll is a 7, come out. I look at it and I say, did I do something wrong? Is it the right set? Is it the wrong set? What do I need to do? And then I may change it on the come out. But once the roll starts, I don't chase. I don't change sets to hit a number. I don't do any of that stuff because my attitude is that if I'm rolling the same way, I'm going to hit repeaters. And if I'm making money off of repeaters, then I don't care about anything else. The repeaters is where you make your money. We'll talk about that in the betting strategy. Well, Ed will show you how to do that. I don't know how to bet. Um, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Um, the repeater is where I make my money. So the mechanics are everything. It, DI, dice influencing the dice starts with the moment you come up to the table until the moment you release the dice. After you release the dice, you have no control. You don't know what's going to happen. But everything you do before that influences what happens. If I just take the dice and just throw it, I just influenced something. What did I influence? I influenced a random toss because I didn't do anything. I just picked it up and threw it. But if I slowly set the dice and I set it to a certain number and I pick it up a certain way and I just slowly toss it to the back wall, then I'm influencing something. What am I influencing? I'm influencing a soft touch, a soft toss, a soft landing, a soft back wall hit. We'll talk about that in the science here in a little bit. But you gotta get consistent, and you gotta get certain consistency. Then that's why you practice in your mechanics. If you can set the dice and toss it the same way every time, at some point you're going to make money because you're going to figure out what the right dice set is, and you're going to figure out what the right bet is. Consistency makes money. Accuracy makes money. So, dice grip, dice set, dice toss. That is very important. I'll pause here. Ed, you got something that you can add?
Well, I think that you've done a very good job of explaining why we do what we do. and I'll address a couple of things. People are different heights. There was a question that rolled by my screen earlier. I'll go ahead and knock this one out real quick. Uh, you know, why are we trying to get over? You've heard me say before on some of the other videos I've done on the coaching videos. I like to see the dice right under the eye line, under your eyesight, right under your nose, basically. So if you're tall enough, you just lean over. If you're not tall enough, you got to get up a little higher so you can get over the table a little bit. So, people who are not as 6 foot or higher, they may have to. I know a lot of controlled DIs that do get up on their tiptoes so that they can get up over the table, getting over the table so you can look directly down the line that you're trying to throw. If you're leaning back and trying to throw them, well, then the next time you're not leaning. I mean, we're trying to control as much as we can control about the mechanics in the whole shooting process, time after time. Up over it, looking down the line. That's versus leaning on your elbow, leaning back, just kind of taking them and throwing them. I mean, all those things bring in other variables into your toss. And what we're trying to talk about here is ways that Gargoil and or I, and we have differing viewpoints at times, do the same mechanical things over and over and over. And y'all have heard me say this before. There's a lot better shooters out there in this world than me. I played with a lot of them. I know of others. So take whatever I say for a grain of salt. If you want to, that's fine. But at the same time, I got 30 years experience. Gargoyle's got a whole ton of experience playing this game. And the more variables you introduce into this game, the more variableness is going to be in your toss. You're not going to hit the repeating numbers he was talking about. And you got to hit repeating numbers, and you got to hit them early if you want to get your money off the table and start playing on casino money. Otherwise, your rack's going to shrink. Back to Gargoyle.
Thanks, Ed. Jeff, I think we can take a few questions before I move along. But before we do that, I just happened to see one in the chat. Arnell was asking why tiptoes. So there are a lot of other questions, but we can cover that in the mindfulness next week if folks, or the second session if folks can hold on. But the reason why I stand on my tiptoes is because 99%, 99% of the craps tables are the same height from the ground to the deck. But some of them have higher rails, some of them have shorter rails. Based on my experience, like in Vegas and Biloxi, and 99% have the same deck height, but some have higher rails and lower rails. This rail right here is about 2 inches higher than a regular rail at the casino. So what I do, the reason why I get on my tiptoe is because I am the same from the deck regardless of the rail. The rail could be higher or lower. It doesn't bother me. Right here is what makes sense. And you can see my hand it's straight because I'm on my tiptoe. The other reason why is because when I throw um, the drop shot or left-handed par, I want to be straight to the back wall. So let's talk about this for a second. I'm glad he asked that question. So let's talk about this for a second. I get on Jeff sometimes, and I even on Fredo for going into the mixing bowl. Why do people go into the mixing bowl a lot? Well, it's simple. It's just mechanics. It's a natural thing to hold the dice like this. Like, I'm gonna go to this camera. It's a natural thing to hold the dice like this, then like that. It's just because it's natural. Well, when you do that, then your hand, let me see, where am I? Then your hand is at an angle. Your wrist and hand is at an angle. So if you go straight, your dice is already at an angle. and it's going to land at an angle, go to the mixing bowl, or your whole hand is going to go like this. Okay? So that's why you hear me sometimes say, set the dice at an angle like that. That way you go straight. The problem to fix that is to go pretty much straight on the dice. So when I go on my tiptoe and I pick up the dice like this and go like that, I want to be looking straight, not like this. Because if I go like this every single time, it doesn't matter what I do. I can hold the dice like that and throw it. It's going to go exactly where I went, into the mixing bowl. I don't know what happened to my screen.
You're fine here.
You're fine.
Okay. Um, so again, if I do it this way, I don't care how. I don't care if I do it like this. If I throw, it goes all the way to the left because it's just normal for me. So in order to fix that, that was Howard, good old Howard. Howard said, "Hey, one you're already like to get on your tiptoes. Why don't you just go like this and lean on the table? The stick man's not going to say anything, and then just look at the back wall and toss it." And as soon as I did that, I tossed it straight. So it's always good to have somebody with you. I'm not. I promise myself I'm not going to say anything about classes, but if you're with somebody that knows what they're doing and they see you, they can immediately pick up on something. I pick up on a lot of stuff on camera, and I try to type it in the chat for the ones that want to listen. Uh, the other ones I only do once and I ignore because they don't respond back. But it's all when you pick up on something, you can see it clearly. Um, you know, Jeff sometimes he doesn't see it, but I see it. Sometimes, Jeff, you pick up your dice like that instead of like this, and you may not think it's a much difference, but it is. I I see it. Um, so anyway, let's go to some more questions before we move on to the science stuff. We're doing good on time.
We're doing good on time. You're all right. The question from Arnell to follow up to what he just asked was, so you want the dice below your eyes when you look down on it?
Yes, I want it straight down like this. When I'm using a toss that's far away from me, when it's right here, I I look at it like that, but then I bring it over here. Whether it's this or whether it's the chopper toss, I'm right here. Or if it's the flea flicker, I'm right here. Or if it's the underhand, you know, I'm like my underhand toss. When I'm like this, I'm looking straight at the back wall. I'm looking straight at the back wall. I'll do it again because I know people haven't seen my underhand. So I'll do it again. So I come up like that and I pick up the dice. I'm looking right here. See right here? I don't know if you can see on the camera because I can't see the screen. But right here, I'm looking straight at the back wall. So when I'm like this, so the only one that I really don't need to do that a lot is my drop shot, which I use a lot. And I don't use it here because it's very bouncy. But my drop shot, all I gotta do is just make sure that, see where I am? I'm not like this leaning. I'm over here, but that's because I know I can go like that and just drop it there. No spin.
Okay, you have a question that people want to know: are your dice flat on the table, or are they sharp edge? I guess the cut edge before you toss. It looks to me like you have them on the cut edge.
So when I set them and pick them up, they're flat. But when I go, on most of my tosses, they're on the cut edge. But I know where they are because I feel my fingers right here touching the layout, so I know what angle. Now, I, you know, if I do an inline shot, I know Arnell does this. I saw him. He picks it up like this and throws it. I pick it up like that. So I don't know if you can see it, but I have this finger back here. So I pick it up flat from the surface and I throw it. Um, and then
Man,
or
we're
if
getting a
the
lot of hard waves tonight, Jeff.
Yeah, I see that.
best. Um, or I if I'm doing my uh, straight drop shot, which is usually from straight out, but if I do it like from here, it's off the deck.
We
So
lost your camera.
Yeah, I think
We
we did
lost that
again.
landing zone camera again. Dadgummit.
jeez.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
can you can try inactivating the camera in OBS and then activating it again. But we'll see what happens with that. G, if you have to back out and come back in, you can.
That's gold stuff. That stuff is gold. He just taught y'all right there, folks.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, that is
Um,
gold.
um,
I can answer a few more questions while I'm just going to disconnect it from here
all right.
and connect it. That
Well,
works.
Shooter Craps wants to know, why do you use different tosses?
Why do I use different software? Um, I don't. I usually stick to the working again. Or you can't see it.
It's not working.
Okay, so I'll have to back out again, but I'll answer. Um, based on the bounce, table bounce, or if I know I've had good success on a certain table, I use a certain toss. Usually, if on a bouncy table like this, if I go to the casino and there's a bouncy table, I use an underhand toss. Um, Good old Howard told me a long time ago, there's no reason chasing if it's staring you right in the face. If you use an underhand toss, you're this much off the table. Um, Drop shot toss I use on a kind of hard surface or a plexiglass table. Um, I hardly toss par. You won't see me do par shots or anything. Um, and also depending on what position. If I'm straight out, I usually use a drop shot. All
Okay.
right, you guys talk to Ed while I back out of OBS and come back in.
All right, you can do that. Ed, you see we've got a pit boss here now. Scott Complex says that the players don't cup over all five of the dice and roll them and shake them. It's called burning the dice. I'll put that back up there. It's called burning the dice. It makes no sense, and most casinos don't allow it. He continues, Ed, with saying this. It rounds the corners and gives no advantage except to the random shooters. And that follow up to his first comment, because you're going to put so many characters in a comment, makes the most sense to me there. It's rounding. It's rounding the
Well, I
dice.
think that's what they're trying to do because they're random. I mean,
Yes.
but I'm gonna tell you, while we're waiting on Gargoyle, I mean, I put together a book of tosses last half of December, first week of January, and then I picked out a set based on the results, and I opened up a brand new first toss dice, and they were very very sharp. And once I got, it didn't take me long, but it made me think more about making them land flat, which is what I do on when I'm opening up a table in a casino. My SRR improved, my off axis ratio improved immediately, and my double pitches dropped dramatically when I went to those sharp dice. And so he's right. It really only benefits the random to have the rounded off edges. I believe that wholeheartedly.
All right. El Toro has a good point here. And G, your camera's working again, so I'm gonna
Okay, you
whichever one
got
you
my
want
voice.
to whichever one of you want to answer it. It comes from El Toro. Since everyone is different, would you agree that throwing what feels comfortable is more important than trying to copy something that is uncomfortable for you? Like with my hand, I broke my right hand too many times.
100%. I agree with him 100%. All 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 we try and do is teach the fundamentals. I'm gonna mention him, but when Cage came over, I knew him. He used to shoot far. He was a good shooter before, but as his arthritis kicked in and he couldn't use his hand, he needed something to. And I showed him how to do it from here. He took it and he made a very very nice shot. Not gonna name it because it's gonna cause all kinds of shit. But he made it his own and he's now comfortable with it. Um, I always said learn the fundamentals and then take it and make it your own. It doesn't have to be like 100% like me or Ed. If it's working for you, if it's giving you an advantage, if you're making money off of it every now and then, stick with it. Don't fix it if it ain't broke.
All right. Ardell happens to agree with that statement as well. I'm going to ask James
Well,
Newberry
a lot of
to
people,
if
a lot of people have different body builds. They have different, I mean, my index finger is way shorter than my other two. That causes me issues. So I have to learn to compensate.
Uh, okay. I'm going to ask James Newberry in your last comment you put in there. I'm not sure I understand the comment. So before I display it again, can you rewrite it? He's asking, is there any mechanical device that can, it says it a number. I don't know what you're trying to say there. There are many devices that you could buy, but Gargoyle, do you support the use of one of those little finger fidget things, or is it up to the individual person? I think that's what he's getting at. What
Uh, if you have anything, if you have anything on your hand when you walk up to the table, they depending on the casino, depending on the pit boss. If God Complex is here, he may answer. Most probably, they're not going to let you shoot the dice with it. Um, some may let you, but if you start hitting numbers and making money, they'll tell you you can't do that anymore. So um, when COVID hit and a lot of people started wearing gloves, I was surprised that they were letting people wear gloves because I was like, hey, my hands don't stick. So I started wearing the glove, but I lost the feeling of the dice because of the glove. So I didn't want to do that. But
well,
any foreign object on your hand, I think the casino is going to frown. They're not going to let you
so
use it.
So James fixed his question, and I think this is very important. So I'm going to go ahead and display it, and I'm going to replace the word "it" with "hit." And he says, "Is there a mechanical device that can hit a number?" I think that's a misnomer in the DI world. We're not trying to spike a number or hit a number. We're trying to extend the roll so we don't end the roll. And I say we because I'm not very good at it. I'm just learning. But I think a lot of people out there that think that if a DI is so good, then why doesn't he shoot for a number? Or better yet, why doesn't he just roll the big red and play the opposite side? But there's I don't want to get off on this mechanics, but there is a point there, and I think maybe we should draw attention to the fact that I don't know of a mechanical device or even setting a specific number that I'm sure somebody out there might be good enough, but the majority of people are trying to avoid the red number. Is that a fair statement out of either one of you?
We don't.
Well,
I don't
I
like
think,
numbers.
I think anything mechanical is built by man, and anything built by man will break or have a flaw in it at some point. So, eventually it becomes just as human as me if it's allowed to deteriorate like I do. But, um, you know, G and I don't always agree on everything. I change sets a lot depending on the type of table I'm on. If I'm on an ATS table, I'm going to change sets because I know the sets I use and the sets that have a tendency, and I'm going to put quotes around that tendency to give me a better opportunity for certain numbers. And it's a lot easier. It's easier to hit an ATS in 15 to 16 rolls than it is in 30 because those 30s are hard to come by. So if you're gonna be a DI and you learn your toss and you learn how it reacts and you learn your sets correctly, you need and you're on an ATS table. My opinion is you go for that ATS quick, and if you're still rolling after that ATS is hit, go for the freaking moon then.
Right. Can
Yeah.
you answer Nate's question here with different sets for comeouts versus a regular point? He puts in a quotation point
Well,
set.
all
I
right.
mean,
Every set is determined by a person's mechanics and their personal toss, and there's no definitive set that will give me one number and you the same number
Right.
or same numbers. There's no definitive set because we're different people, we're different mechanics in our toss, we've got different launch angles, we've got different acceleration off of the tub floor. So I mean, you know, there's old wise sayings, and you kind of lean on them sometimes, but the tendency to hit certain numbers is what we're after, or what I'm after. If I'm on an if I'm not on an ATS table, I'm never going to change sets if I'm hitting repeaters. I mean, I'll take a five all the way to $5,000, and let's just go.
All right. Let's break there just for 1 second. I'm going to remind the viewers we're at about 150 people on the two channels currently watching. To casual slots, your question I think is going to come up under the science side of it. I think it will. So Ed, that's on your side of your comments and your chat. We're dual streaming Mid-Atlantic Craps and Roll to Win Craps, and we're going to try to get to the questions the best we can. G, I call him G, it's Gargoil. He wanted to cover the mechanics. And G, I have a question here about understanding your dice when they land. Does that come under mechanics, or is that going to come underneath the science portion of this discussion tonight?
The science and the physics will explain, how they land.
Okay.
We can go into it right now if you want.
Well, let's just go back up just 1 second. I think we had somebody wanted to know. I guess our Godfrey wanted to know how do you throw the Uri toss while we're still on the mechanic here? Do you throw the Uri toss?
I use the Uri grip, but yes. The answer is yes. So if my hands are very sweaty, very, very sweaty, and I can't, for some reason, I cannot grab them by, get skinny. I will use the Uri toss, and I will toss like that. But the reason why I don't like it is because it puts a lot of spin on the dice.
Okay.
You can't really control the spin, and spin is very important, and we can talk about that when we do the physics of the dice.
All right, two more questions underneath the mechanics. I'm going to go back to about almost a half hour ago. Arnell had a question. In my opinion, I don't think I've yet to see anyone hit the same spot. I think it's just one's perception that hitting close to the same spot. Ben tried to prove it. I don't know if he says I've tried to prove it, but I know that you look at some of the tables that are out there. Ed's old felt is pretty consistent with an area, but from a mechanic standpoint, the same spot, what do you consider like the area? I mean, not a foot, not 6 inches square, 4 inches round. What do you consider the same area?
Yeah. So for me, it's somewhere around here.
Right,
it's this area.
Let me highlight Ed. He's holding something up. Go ahead and hold that up again, Ed. Chip size. Is that what you?
Every time I turn around, people are hitting chips down there. That must be the target. Right? I see them hit chips all the time down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can hit that chip 8 times out of 10, at least with one of your dice, you're hitting the same spot.
All right. Yeah. So let's go back.
Then you can take it. You can take it down the small. You remember I had Sideshow shooting at a little piece of paper about the size of my fingernail.
Yeah, you did. I think it was an inch square. Yeah, you did. Go back to your landing zone.
Right?
Go back to your land. Hey, G, go back to your landing zone. I'll put full screen up here. Show that area that you consider the same spot. I guess what Arnell's asking.
So the landing zone moves depending on the table and the bounce, but usually it's about this big for me, right here. Or if I'm doing a drop shot, it's literally right here. It's this area right here in the middle, because I want the dice to come in, hit this, and then land, and then stop.
Okay. One more question then, and we'll move on to the science side of this. Comes from Sarge. He says, during a come out 7 is thrown, will you change sets or wait to see what happens again, or maybe never change the set regardless?
Yeah, good question, Sarge. So you gotta let me set the stage. Usually, when I get up in the morning and I'm by myself at the table, there's nobody around, and I pick up a dice and toss it the first time on the come out, and a seven comes. You have about 15 seconds by the time the stick guy grabs the dice, brings it to you, and then you pick it up again and toss it. I have about 15 seconds to make a whole bunch of determination. Is it me? Was it the set? Is it the table? Bunch of stuff goes to your head. So you that's the again in the next series I talk about that. You have to be ready for a quick answer to what you want to do, and I already have it in predetermined. If something happens that I can pick up quickly on, I'll either change the set or change the mechanic. If if I can't figure it out after like a few tosses and I seven out, I may walk away from the table because I'm not going to sit there, put 640 across, and keep losing it while I'm trying to figure out my toss. I don't. I hope that answers your question, Sarge. But it all depends on whether I can figure out if it's my toss or my set, or this is not a good table for me to play on. Maybe that's the best way I can say it.
Okay. Well, James clarified going back to the question about a device, and he says, "What I'm saying is there a mechanical device that gives a perfect throw and copy it?" And we all know the answer to that. I don't know that James didn't know this, but El Toro answered the question pretty good. That somebody did make a device to try to mimic it and show that you can throw no matter how exact the toss is simulated. Dice outcome is still random, debunking the theory of DI. It doesn't mean that somebody's not good with everything from choosing the dice set, which is another question get ready to come up, to setting them, releasing them, the velocity, the height, the toss, and the landing zone. After that point of the landing zone, you're hoping that the dice are going to continue to do the same thing they have been doing previous to that. And just because you're saying you're a DI, everybody is going to seven out. I don't care how good you are. It's going to happen. Any of the big teachers that are out there teaching, a course, you're paying money for it or you're getting it for free, it's going to tell you that you are going to seven out. I think that's it. There was a question here, real quick before we move on to
So
science.
real quick, Jeff. This right here is the greatest equalizer. This is what causes random. Right here.
Okay. Yep.
Um, you can control and you can influence up to the point that the dice hits here. After that, you're hoping your influence comes and then gets you the outcome you want. This is the great equalizer right here, the diamonds.
Right. And
That's what random.
the God Complex is saying that he would give a word of advice that the Gargoyle to pick. Let me make sure I get this. To pick a letter to hit on the other end of the table, or it leaves less variable. And I do like what he says here: aim small, miss small. I do like that
Yes.
that
If
philosophy.
so he would know, and he understands what I'm about to say. Different tables have different layouts, different sizes. Sometimes the pass line is here, on other tables it's here, on other tables it's further. Usually, again, in the next session, talk about mindfulness. When I walk up to an empty table, I look at the layout. If it's something I'm going to play in the morning, I size it. I sometimes go like this and see, oh, I want to hit this spot. Okay, that's the spot that I'm going to hit. So he's 100% accurate. I if there's an identifying mark, one table in Biloxi, I'm not going to mention what casino, but several years ago had a cigarette burn, and you could see it from all the way over there. And I aimed at that cigarette burn every time.
All right. Question from Dustin: what does a dice influencer look for when choosing their dice set at the start of a hand?
You go with your baseline sets that you already know from your home table. And are you trying to throw a horn number or on the come out? And if you are, then you go with your horn heavy set. If you're trying to set a 6/8 for the point, and you want to lay big odds on that, then you go to your heavy on your 6/8 set. Doesn't mean you're going to throw either one of them, but that's what you start with. If that's what I start with. You know, I'm looking for ways I can make money. If I can hit horns on the come out, hit three or four worlds in a world bets in a row that aren't got any sevens in them. And if they got sevens in them, just keep pressing that sucker up and then roll a 2 or a 12, and you'll have enough money to bet with, and you ain't got to take money out of your rack. I mean, that's the way I look at it. That's why I try to do it. But doesn't mean I do it every time. Heck no. But it's fun to try, and it's a high vig bet with a low cost.
G, any comment on that?
Yeah, people want to jump to the next session, man. I'm telling you. So
Yeah.
it's whatever set that worked the night before, because I usually go the night before and practice really cheap $10 fast line and see what works, and then come in the morning when it's empty and do my thing.
All right. So do you want to move on to, since we're
Yeah.
coming up on the hour time frame, we'll go on up to tonight was mechanics and science. Move on to probably going to be a heated topic here, but let's talk science.
It's a heated topic, but I just want to make sure this camera is still working. Testing.
It is,
One,
yes.
two.
Yep,
One,
it
two,
is.
three. Okay,
Yep.
good. So,
Oops, sorry. Hold on one second. There you go,
Oh.
G. Go ahead. Start over again.
all right. So Heavy said when he was on one of our shows that the Partos was the only one that was mathematically and scientifically proven that works on access. He didn't go into any details. So I'm going to go into those details. But I got to give you a little history lesson first. Back years and years ago, before the Partos got its name, it was called on access rolling toss. And I need to get my big dice over here so that I can show you what I'm talking about. But there was a gentleman by the name of Chris Policki. Chris Policki. You guys probably don't know him, but he's known by Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter was a very, very smart, intelligent person. He had
Go down further towards your wall. We can only see one dice.
There you go.
he
There you
had
go.
he had engineering degrees. He studied physics and he studied dice. I got my information off the internet and off real books from real people, not from Frank Funky Smell or Greasy Johnny. Sharpshooter was an engineer, and he was working with Patterson that time, and they figured out that from a physics perspective, and this is complete physics, the dice have three axes. It has vertical axis that it can spin on. It has horizontal axis it can spin on. And it has cattywampus axis, which is all over the place.
Cattywampus axe. That's
Yeah.
a great axe.
Yep. So as they started looking at the dice, they noticed that if the dice is spinning on its vertical axis like this, your stack tosses, your chopper, your flea flicker, your whatever, but it's vertical. The only way it's gonna stay on axis is if it hit flat. Forget about what's back here. Let's say that this is a flat surface back here, not these pyramids. If the dice hits vertical anywhere here, 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 or here, it's going to go off axis. The only way it's going to go on axis if it hits flat. And then after that, it's going to maybe go one or two and then die, which is what Cage does very, very well. Or if it keeps going, it's going to eventually get off axis. Okay? With the horizontal axis, if you can keep the die on its horizontal, it doesn't matter if it hits on its angle, flat, or this angle, it's going to stay on axis. So it has a lot more surface, to stay on axis. So because of the physics of the dice, they deducted that horizontal axis has better odds of staying on axis than the vertical. You have to be perfect. You have to hit the dice flat to stay on axis. If you hit it, if you're going like this and you hit like that, it's going to go off axis. And you can try it on any dice. If you're rolling the dice this way, it's gonna stay rolling this way. If you're doing it like that, it's gotta stay flat on the ground. Let me do it. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong dice. If you're rolling the dice this way, it's gonna stay on axis. Vertical, it has to stay like this to stay on axis. I mean, you guys can see it. I'm not making this up. If it goes like that, then it's gonna go off axis. So that's the only thing they came up with, is that the horizontal axis has better odds of staying on axis than the vertical. Now, they looked at all the horizontal tosses, whether it's the ice tongue, or whether it's the drop shot, or whether it's they used to call it the horizontal roll, which eventually became the par shot. And they said that because the ice tongue could separate the drop shot, one of the die could go like this. Um, the friction, the whole thing with the dice spinning, causes them to stay more on axis. They deducted that the horizontal axis spinning die has the best odds of staying on axis. That's it. They didn't say that this toss can have more rolls than this, or this toss looks better than this. None of that. They just said that from an access perspective, this toss is the best one to stay on axis. If you're shooting the flea flicker and you have your dice set on one, like John from Casino Gaming TV does, you're either going to hit a one or a six. Anything else is off axis, right? Because you have the ones on top, sixes on the bottom. So in order to stay on axis, you're either going to hit a 2, a 12, or a 7. But if you're going sideways, then you have a 1. Where's my dice? If you're going sideways, you have a 1, 10, 12, 4, or 3. You have more numbers that you can hit that pays out. But that's how you know how to stay on axis. Now, the reason why they called the Patterson on axis rhythm roll is because they figured out that when you throw it, when you throw, that's going to be weird, but when you throw it like this, the dice moves that way, right? That's a par shot. The dice goes backward. What makes it, the physics of it, what makes it cool is that when it hits the table, if it hits flat, it deadens the bounce. But if it hits on its side, it starts rolling forward. But as soon as it hits, it slows down the dice. That's why I don't put a lot of spin. If you put a lot of spin, it increases the velocity towards the back wall. But if you have very little spin, as soon as it hits, it's going to slow down the velocity to the back wall. And that's what you want. You want a soft touch at the back wall. You don't want something to hit and then just go all over the place. You want to hit the table, hit the back wall, and die. This is very difficult to do. But depending on the toss, um, again, I'm going to mention him because he's very good at it. If you watch Cage, Cage throws it and the dice just go like this and die. He's been practicing it for years and years and years and years and years. He's the best of it. He knows how to throw it. Um, Other people, Sarge is getting there. I see other people throwing their own tosses on YouTube, and they're getting better at making the dice go soft to the back wall. Now, the great equalizer is the pyramid, right? So, how do you know if your dice stay on axis or not? Well, I'm going to show you in a second, but somebody mentioned how the dice reacts when they hit the table. As long as they stay on axis, it doesn't matter if they go like this, or like that. They're going to react on axis. However, if they hit flat, they may die or barely bounce to the back wall. But if they hit on the edge, depending on how hard you threw them, they may go high, or they may, depending on the angle, they may go low. And then as soon as they go low, they're going to go up in the air and go back. Sometimes you see my tosses on this bounce table. One die goes like this. You see it all the time, right? That's because one of them hit really hard. That's the grip. That's a grip problem. That is not a toss or a landing zone problem. That's a grip. One finger is, the middle finger is more on the left or right die than the other, and I immediately recognize it. So um, I'm gonna pause here. I said a lot.
Okay, can I jump in here real quick? And I'm gonna jump on this bandwagon with dice grinders, Arnell. Not to be a naysayer or anything, but I think Arnell makes a very good point here. He says if dice skew even slightly, it's not on axis anymore. That's a fair statement. So how important and what can somebody do to do the best they can do to reduce the skew, if you will, Arnell? So I don't know if I made that question worse or better,
Yeah,
but
he's right. He's right. So basically, what he's saying is that if you land the dice this way, if you're throwing the par toss and the dice land this way, it's gonna go off axis. Now, let me get another die because this is very important. If you set the hard ways, and I'm gonna stay with what Arnold said, but where's my? This is the hard way set: fives and fours and threes, right? If the dice lands with the fives on top and the fours showing, this is on axis result. Now, here's where I'm gonna be pelted with empty beer cans, empty beer bottles, and everything else that you can think of. But I stick to my guns on this. This die went off axis. I don't care if it's a five showing. It went off axis. Bone tracker, you only put in the numbers on top. You don't put in the numbers facing you. One of the things I don't like about Bone Tracker is, and I know Heavy's gonna kill me when I say that, is
he's
that
here,
you
by the
can't put
way.
the, sir?
He's here, by the way.
Oh, then I'll move on. I love Bone Tracker. I think it's the best thing. I'm gonna stick to my guns. It's time for Bone Tracker to grow up. We're moving into technology. It needs to advance just like everything. I wish we can have it to where you can put in the top paying numbers and the facing numbers, because then you can get a more accurate because if this die went off axis because of the result, because you started this way, and I don't know if you can see you started this way and you ended up that way.
Do that again.
Okay,
I zoomed in. Do that again.
you started this way with the five on top forward, and then you ended up with the five on top and a six on this one. This die went off axis, even though that you got a good paying, you got a good top position on axis. Your facing is off axis. If you could figure out how to do bone tracker to where it can capture this number and that number, you would get a 100% accurate SRR and toss result. I wish we could do that, but until then, go with what the top die gives you, because it's a good accurate. Now if I'm throwing and I see let's say I see a 1-6 facing me, but a 5, but a 10 on top, I'm not worried. I don't care. I don't change sets because I know that the die went off axis and I have to fix it. Now, going back to Arnell, if one die lands a little bit on its edge, it's gonna either jump this way or that way, depending on what it is. It's with your grip. It's with your grip. If you have go back to this camera right here. If your middle finger, and this is where Heavy and Dice Coach and others are very, very well at, and I'm not, because I hold it really skinny, but if you hold it down further, that's how they shoot the dice. But if your thumb is not in the right position, you're gonna split the dice. If your middle finger is more on one die than the other, it's gonna split. And when the dice splits, as soon as the die split or go in an angle, it's gonna land on its edge. Even though it's turning, it's gonna land on its edge because it's not straight. Anytime you see a die go to the left or the right or split, it's because of a grip, not because of how it landed. It landed the way it did because the grip was wrong when you first tossed it. I
All right.
guess that's the better
Can
way.
I make a comment? Can I make a comment? I know Ed
Yes,
stepped
sir.
away from his table, but Steve actually Heavy does say that you do enter the top facing dice and the top and the facing dice. I thought that was the case. I wasn't going to correct you because I'm not an expert. When I put my dice set into Bone Tracker, I copied out of the Craps Nation KPI. I put it over there. It's showing me 5454. So I didn't know if that was right or wrong, so I didn't want to update that. But I think what maybe Arnell's asking here is maybe even a three-dimensional dice set, maybe. So correct me, G, so that I understand, because Steve's here and he's actually said that you do enter facing and top.
Well,
Um,
let me jump in here real quick because I do a lot of bone track. You do enter the dice set that you're tossing, tops and faces. Now, when you toss the dice and they land down there, you only get paid on what's on top, right?
right.
And so they're going to be like he showed. There might be on that hardware set. There might be a 6 showing and a 4 showing on the front or the back, however you want to call it. So one did rotate on that horizontal axis or vertical, whichever one it was, that axis that runs this way. All right, so the vertical axis. So it did rotate. So in the past, I used to say, okay, we got our own axis result because we don't know, unless you've got an ultra slow motion camera, what all gyrations that dice went through when it hit the wall and came back. One may have turned 4 times and one may have only turned once. And then you got a one pitch off, but you call it one pitch off, but you don't know which one rotated 14 times and which one rotated 13 times, right? So People can tear it apart all they want to, but it works. I mean, that's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take my word for it. And if you're too lazy to enter it and do it, then do it your own way. It don't matter to me.
Let's
And
throw
I
this up
used it.
here.
I mean, I used Bone Tracker and I gave it to Ed. So I used Bone Tracker. Um,
Hang
but
on, hang on one
I think
Hey,
it's
G,
better.
G, let me
Yeah.
just. I want to make sure I understand this because this is even over my head. I'm just a moderator here. Sarge says that is it the pitch control or the synchronization of the dice in flight just as important as trying to land them flat on axis? Does that hold weight?
The pitch and grip is what causes them to land on axis. If you have the pitch and grip wrong, they're not going to land on axis. It's the pitch, grip, and toss. It's the whole. It's a package deal. It's the way you grip the dice, you set it, and the way you toss it that will keep them that will keep them on axis. If you do a mistake in any of them, most probably they will go off axis.
Well, what Heavy says here in the comments is Sarge pitch control is actually more important than axis control, but we didn't know that 20 years ago.
Right.
Thanks for being here too, Heavy.
Yep.
Yeah. So what I showed you is just what the science experiment did and said. That's it. Again, it didn't say that you know the stack sauce can get you more rolls than the ice dong or anything. It just said that the horizontal axis has better odds of staying on axis than the vertical. And one of the better tosses in the horizontal axis was the bar shot. And that's why a lot of the schools teach it because it's one of the easier ones to keep on axis. Not that you cannot do it with the other ones, but you have to work harder for that. Not that this is easy, also the bar shot, by the way, but it's one of the
Okay.
easier ones.
So while we're on the science portion of it, and I know this is a touchy, probably the wrong word to use. This has just been a few minutes ago, probably almost 10 minutes ago. El Toro says that he's addressing what Arnell said, dice grinders. What makes it difficult for the dice to land flat on the faces and dissipate most of the energy is the dice spinning at different speeds. Very rarely will they hit evenly together. We
Well,
put
you know
that.
what? You know what? It's time for Gargoyle's cheap trick of the trade because guess what? We are going to
Somebody.
do it. We are going to show it at this table. And Heavy, forgive me, I'm
All
going to
right.
toss the square shot, which I don't usually
Let
do.
me let
Some
me let me jump in while he's walking over there real quick.
Hold on, G. Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah. You know, I took more than one physics class in my life since I was an engineer in college myself. Uh, and Sir Isaac Newton, that guy that we learned about, the apple falling on his head, who discovered gravity that way. The third law of Sir Isaac Newton is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So what he what G has been showing you there, what Gargoyle has been showing you, is that when those dice land on that table, there is an action exerted and there is a reaction, and that is equal. All right, that's physics. That's pure physics. All right, so if they land flat, then it is exerting force on the table. The table is exerting the force back onto the die. Now we put the brakes on it with backspin in the par toss. The brakes become the backspin in the conventional par toss. Less spin is better than too much spin because you got more energy to dissipate. The more energy you got, more reaction, according to Sir Isaac Newton, right? So those are the things that are involved here that us normal folks that just want to go play casino dice and try to have a controlled toss, we don't actually think about it, but I think about that stuff because of my background. Um, and getting them to land flat with that backward rotation will put the brakes on those dice a little bit so that they go into the wall a little more softer than they normally would have. And the other thing that Paul Wiki and all those guys discovered, of course, they played on traditional felt tables, 25 years ago. Well, they had a 45-degree launch angle. They wanted to launch at 45 degrees. They wanted to come down at 45 degrees, land flat, into the wall, stop. That was the whole premise behind their science in this toss. Microfiber has changed that. It's not a traditional felt grip anymore on those dice. It's a slicker surface. So you want to go from a 45-degree angle toss down to about a 30 or 35-degree toss. A little softer, a little less energy on it. That's all part of, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay. Go ahead, G. I just had to throw a little more physics in there real quick.
Yep. So what we're gonna do is so how can you see if your dice stay on axis after they hit the back wall? Because you got the pyramids, right? So I moved this camera and I'm hoping to kind of show you here a little bit experiment. So if you throw a toss and you have these pyramids, how do you know after it hits the back wall and lands that it stayed on axis or if it was a true on axis toss? Well, if you have a craps table or landings or anything that you use, you can order you one of these that's already sitting on your craps table. But you take it and you just lay it flat. Just like that. Now you have the same material that the casinos use without the pyramids. Now, is it perfect? But it should give you a more accurate of what your dice is doing. The other thing is, if you're throwing it in the curve in the mixing bowl, it's not going to stay on axis. It's got to be straight. You got to hit the straight. You got to hit this area right here for a chance for it to be on axis. So I'm going to screw this big time, but let's see. I want to set the ones on top and 5 facing me. So that means that if you see a 4 or a 3 anywhere, that means the die didn't stay on axis. And of course, as soon as I wanted to do this, I'm dripping sweat. But it's all right. Let's try it. This is live, folks. Unedited. This is how we do. This is how we roll in the Shire.
I'm like a hobbit myself.
It went off axis. I can already tell. You see? Can you see the dice
Yes.
in the other
yes.
camera? So
Yes.
you got 5-2 on top, but you got 2 4s. So yes, they took the money because of the 7, but the dice went off axis. Let's do it again. That was a shitty toss, by the way. That's not the dice fault. It's my fault. Let's do it again. Well, you know what? I'm gonna do the par toss because that's what people want to do. So. Went off axis. Again, it's not because of it's not because of the physics doesn't work. It's because I'm doing a shitty toss. I'm not good with that. So let's keep going. This is how you learn whether you're keeping the dice on axis or not. And it's simple. We got a 5, 6, but what did we get on the sides? We got a 4 and a 4. Somebody that knows how to shoot the par toss a lot better than me can probably get it, keep it like Heavy or others can probably, or even Ed can probably keep it on access a lot
Even
more
Ed, I
than,
like the way you put
well, because you guys do this stuff all the time. My drop shot doesn't stay on access, or else I would show it. Um, I mean, I can go back to this one, but I know it's hitting. It's because of how it's landing and hitting the back wall. It is not staying on access because I'm not keeping the dice in the air on access. It went to the right. It's because it landed not on access. So what does that prove? It doesn't prove that the science is wrong. It proves that Gargoil can shoot worse as shit the Bartos. That's all it is. And I can't. So, but if you toss the dice on access, get you one of these, or if I'm sorry, if you toss the dice as a like a par shot and stuff like that, get you one of these and keep throwing, keep entering the numbers in Ball Tracker to figure out what set you want to use. But this will tell you when you can toss the dice and keep them on access, you know you've achieved a certain plateau that only very few have achieved. I'm gonna pause because I don't want to shoot anymore.
Well, follow it up and with Arnell's comments and I like his train of thought here. We're not playing devil's advocate, but so if you toss into the diamonds, those would be on access results. It's a question. Um, I
we
don't know
don't
if
know.
yeah that's
You don't
that's what
know.
I was
That's
thinking.
it. We don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if that was a
I,
serious question or not, but we
Yeah,
don't know that because we didn't throw into the diamonds, right?
right.
all you
Uh,
can do, is set up for a soft hit to the back wall and hope they stay on access. There are certain dice sets that you can use based on your toss that even if the die go off access, it doesn't give you a seven. It is what we call a seven forgiving. Um, so not what I'm saying. This exercise right here that I have. This exercise is just to see if you're keeping your dice on access when they leave your hand and land because there's no pyramids. It's a flat surface. So if they hit flat, they're gonna go flat. If they hit on the edge, they're gonna go sideways. It helps you with your toss at home practicing. So if you can get it to hit the table on access and hit this on access, then you're getting better at your toss. Not a lot of people can do that, but you don't know it and you can't see it. Why? Because of this. When it goes off access, they'll say, "Oh, I hit the pyramid." You gotta be if you really want to be a DI and you're really on your journey, you gotta be true to yourself and you gotta know what the hell you're doing and you gotta know where to stand. This right here, and I have it next to me because I use it every time. It's a no-brainer. It will tell you exactly if your dice. And by the way, if you hit it and your dice go like that, that means you hit it hard. So this will help you with your toss also. And remember that this is a bouncy table, so good luck getting anything on access on this table. But that's beside the point.
all right.
Good to meet
Clay wants to
I
know at
love
what
it.
percentage do you feel you can keep the dice on axis? What are you happy percentage wise?
Me?
Yes, or Ed.
Uh, I my drop shot doesn't keep the dice on access. It's an off. it's not, I don't set the sevens and shoot it, but because of how the dice is landing, they land like flat, and and as soon as they hit, they go sideways. So I don't have a good percentages of keeping them on
Well,
access.
here's a comment from Heavy. He said, "You know you are keeping the dice on axis via Bone Tracker if you are consistently showing the BDOA results significantly above 44.4%. The math proves it." And I've always heard 45%, so that's close enough. Ed, I think you've said on shows we've done in the past year that if you're somewhere in the 35 to 45% range, you're happy with everything, not just being on axis, but you
No,
feel
no,
as
no.
if you're
I want more on axis than that.
okay.
Uh, the highest I've ever seen, and it was not me, was a 52% on axis. That's a very high on axis result. Very few single pitches. Where you make your money, we'll get in that in a minute. But you know, you can have mine run from 40, let's just say 49 to 50. Book I'm on right now, man, I was killing it at about 51 and a half, and I went into a streak of 36 tosses in there that, hell, a bunch of them was off axis. So there that went. It went down right down to 48 and a half, 49. That's kind of my norm. I'm 48, 49% pretty consistent. I'd love to be consistently over 50%, but it's just with my fingers and the way I throw, it's just not part of my mechanics. So I have to use a different set to kind of adjust for that.
Okay. All right. G, anything
The
else on
real
the
money is
science?
the real money is stop the real money is stopping the double pitches. If you can get your double pitches under 8%, we find a set for you that'll work. I
Yeah,
can promise you that.
and this is where it's okay to agree to disagree. You know, um, Heavy and I will always be friends regardless, and Ed and I will always be friends regardless. But my definition of on access and their definition of on access is a little bit different. What I consider on access is top and facing. And if you don't have Bone Tracker, you don't have any of that stuff, and you're at home and you're trying to figure out what your dice is doing, this is a good tool to tell you what your dice is doing. If you have Bone Tracker, it will. I use it. I have it. Ed will tell you. I've sent him Bone Tracker tools, books. So I'm not knocking Bone Tracker.
SRR of 10. I didn't
Yeah.
say that.
No, you didn't say that because I think yes, but but I use Bone Tracker, so I'm not knocking Bone Tracker. Please, I'm not knocking Bone Tracker, but I'm telling you, if you don't know what you're doing, and by the way, uh, I just put this right here because the one that I had where it was an actual board that just sat here didn't move. Um, I don't know what happened to it when I redid my table. I don't know what I put it. I try to find it, so I'm just using this as an example. Um, but it looks ugly, so I'm gonna remove it and put the nice pyramids. This is why the casinos have these. Casinos have these because it's the great equalizer because they know if it's a flat surface, people can take advantage of it. There's a reason why the casinos do something. I know God Complex is probably still on. I wish he would just kind of chime in on this. They do things because they know if not, there's a certain advantage that could be taken. I'm gonna tell you one of them right here. See this right here, the flat surface. If you can hit it consistently, then you can have good rolls. I was depending on the casino, depending on the mood of the pit boss. A lot of times, they wouldn't care, but sometimes if I'm starting to make good money on rolls, they'll say, "Sir, you need to hit the pyramids from here on up," and then it's my choice. I either color up and leave, or I hit the pyramids from here on up and 7 out. Heavy said something. I can't read it.
50% is a strong goal. I've seen one student who had a legit 55 plus with a long run SRR of 11. My recommendation to him was to meet me in Biloxi.
Absolutely. And let me know when he's coming.
All right. We shifting gears just 1 second. This was a question that was asked probably 30 minutes ago. I didn't realize he was talking about this. This came from God Complex. It's going to put the mechanics and maybe the science together. He says, do you ask a player to move chips during the roll or pick a secondary landing zone and keep your head in the game and wait for the come out roll to ask them to move the chips?
Um, I'll let Ed answer in a minute, but I never ask anybody to move their chips. Mostly because when I'm playing in the morning, there are no chips in my way, and when I'm playing in a group, um, they know how to act. They know that if two of you shoot from stick right one, you can stand both of you here, and then depending on who's shooting, the other one can get skinny, right? You can back out and give room to the other person. Um,
Well,
it,
before Ed talks, God Complex did answer your question as far as a pit boss. We don't care as long as you hit the wall. He says there's no rule to hit the alligator back. If you hit the flat spots, it's fine.
Beautiful.
cool. He needs to secretly tell me which casinos he's in so that I can go over there all the time.
Morse code.
Because when I'm collecting $5,000 on a four because I have a $2,500 on it, they start telling me to hit the pyramids up, and that was
All
in
right.
Vegas.
All right. Ed, you were getting ready to make a comment?
I can't even remember the damn question now. Tell me again.
In the way. Chips in the
Uh,
way,
I
Ed.
done
You
forgot what
asked
the
them to
question
yeah,
was.
move.
But I was
yeah,
gonna say something. Oh, the chips. Oh no, I
Yes.
don't ever ask them to hit. I just start hitting their chips, and if they can't get the answer, then I'll move. I mean, but on the come out, I'll aim for their chips and see if I can get them to move them. If I hit a point, if I hit a 11 or a 12 or whatever, I'm good. Okay, let me hit them again. Eventually, either they're stupid and they just keep stacking them there, and I just adjust my landing zone, or they move them. But I'll shoot to try to hit their chips. Again, the importance of team play. If you're playing with a small group of people and you've already agreed on certain aspects of how you want to play a table, a good blocker for shooters is worth extra tips for being there.
All right. Here's a follow up to what we've been talking about for the past, almost hour and 40 minutes. Carlos wants to know ideally, do we want to toss the dice so it slides or trickles to the bottom of the wall, and will the casinos count it as hitting the back wall? I think we just heard they will, but the first part of that question, slides or trickles to the back wall, either one of you want to respond to that?
You don't want it to
Well,
slide. You don't want it
ideally,
to
you want
slide.
it to stop right against the bottom rubber. I mean, that would be the ideal shot, and you got to have a really soft touch to do that, and I don't have one.
What you're gonna try and do is get it. One of them went high, but you're gonna try and toss it like right here, like this. You want the dice to go like that. As long as they as so the casino, the pit boss, as long as they see dice going this way, then they know it hit the back wall. It doesn't have to be like long, but they want to see motion going back towards the shooter. Your job as a shooter is to minimize that motion. My drop shot usually comes like this, but it hits the back wall, and they don't say anything. But no sliding. You don't want to slide it.
Right. I like what the God Complex says. It's going to fall down. Let me put that back up there. He says, tell the casino the rule is to hit the back wall. Is the rule if they wanted you to hit the alligator wall, then they could put the whole wall as an alligator backing?
I know, but he works at different casinos. I've seen it to where a friend of mine and I were at Paris, and for 3 days we were there. He would shoot in the mixing bowl, and everything was okay. All of a sudden, this whale shows up, and he bought in for $100,000, and he went 5 5 5 5 5. As soon as he did that, the pit boss went to my friend and says, "Sir, you need to hit the back wall. And he's like, I've been doing that for 3 days. They said, no, the back wall is from here to here. This is considered the back wall. All this is part of the sides. And I looked at him and I'm like, man, what are you smoking? I want some of that. We just called, but he wasn't worried about my friend. He was worried about hitting numbers and the whale making money off of that toss. A lot of times that's what they do. They start making up their own rules because somebody's going to make money off of that. Not you, but somebody. So I know what God Complex is saying, but I know for a fact, and I've experienced it, sometimes the rules get changed. That's why I give the casino as less things to complain about as possible, giving the stick guy room. I throw this way, not that way. You know, if I have to go back a little bit more, I do that. I try to give them less, but some casinos make up their own rules. Some, not all, but some casinos, they just make up the rules as they go.
All right. Well, I don't doubt that because we've seen a couple things that I think it's the person's having a bad day and they just want to be egotistical and show their power because they're behind the in the pit. Most of them are there to accommodate. And I think God Complex said it once. They don't care whether we win or lose. The people, the dealers, they would rather have us winning because then they're winning as well. But you're right, G. They probably, from time to time, different casinos have different rules. One of my locals has a sign that says, once the dice are pushed out to you, you have 5 seconds to release them. And that's their rule. And do they always enforce it? It depends on the shift. That's the way it goes. Real quick, we'll call for questions now, guys. We've been streaming an hour and 45 minutes. Anybody that has a question, I'm going to kind of scroll back and hit a couple of the questions. Is there anything else that you want to talk about from the mechanics or science, Ed or G?
Well, Dan's been asking about how do I use this. He calls it my toy, but we'll leave that alone. So basically, I put it back here, and I try to see where if the dice hits high or low, and then how deep of an imprint it makes. If it's a deep imprint, that means that it hit hard. If it's a soft imprint, that means it hit soft. So I'll demonstrate it. So basically, I'll just throw it, regular, and I
Gotta
completely
hit it
miss
first,
it.
G.
I gotta hit it first. That's
Yeah, let me get your screen just a little bit bigger there.
So I'm trying to hit it hard so that I can show them what I'm talking about. All right. So you can't see it, but it hit right here and it had a right here. It has this imprint in it. So that's why the green dice. So it hit hard on an angle, and the green die went this way. So let me do it again.
You
Again.
gotta hit it.
It's a big target, but I keep missing it because I'm hitting my landing zone. I need to move it past my landing zone. So let me move it past my landing zone. There we go. I'm rushing. All right, let me slow down for a second. Sorry about that. All right. So let me. I'm gonna take it and show it to the camera. You can see that there's an imprint right here and an imprint right here, right? There's one right here and one right here. So one die came up here and one die came up here, and it's a heavy imprint. So that means that the dice hit hard. What you want is a barely. Man, I have a bald spot. Why didn't anybody tell me these things?
You didn't know that already?
Yeah, really.
No, jeez.
Hey, G, you got a ball spot.
What is that? What is that? 1-800 hair for men? I need to call them. Um, so let me do it again.
Oops, I was too late with
You
that one.
heard it. You heard it. So this right here. So one die, barely an imprint. This die right here had a hard imprint, and you can. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not.
Yeah, if you leave it
You
right
see
there
it?
just for 1 second, I
Yep.
can zoom in on that. Leave it there just for 1 second, G. Just for 1 second. I'm going to try to zoom in, and you can kind of point to it. All right, I'm going to zoom in
It's
right
right here.
now. Yep,
It's
there you
right here
go.
somewhere. It's right here
Yep,
somewhere. You can see. You can see the imprint.
right. Yeah, I know you can't tilt that far because some of them will fall in, but yeah.
Yeah. So let me move it up.
Pull it towards the ceiling a little bit. There you go. There you go.
You see that hole
Yep,
right
yep,
here?
yep.
That's the imprint from the dice. That you don't want to see that. That means I throw it really hard. What you want to see is barely. What you want to see is barely anything. You want to hear it. You want to hear it hit, but barely see any imprints. Then you know it's soft.
Okay.
I hope that helps. And then
Yeah.
also you can see how high the dice hit. That's too high. You need it a little bit lower.
Okay. All right. And any other comments before we start fielding a couple questions that have come in during the night? Anything else you want to talk about, illustrate?
No, I'm tired. I'm thirsty. I need something to drink. I can barely breathe.
All right. I'm going to go back about an hour and 10 minutes ago, and it might be a little bit off topic, but I know that this person asked a question a couple of times, and I don't know if they're still here or not. I've got to go back and get it. We're going to talk about table etiquette. And it might be a little off topic, but what is the etiquette for someone crowding the shooter, busy table, and people standing on top of each other, and just as you toss the dice, someone bumps you?
Turn around and
Ooh.
knock the shit out of
Well, it happens. It happens. I've had people,
it. Here's what you do. Here's what I do. I turn around and say, "Sir, I was shooting the dice and you run into me. Now we didn't 7 out on that one, and I can't guarantee you we're gonna hit a number on the next shot. But I can guarantee you one thing: if you keep bumping into me, my shot's gonna be over with. Are you here to make money? Or are you here to bump into the shooter?"
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask him that
you're
question. And if he won't back up out of the way, I might go to a backswing and hit him. Boom. Sorry. I might change to a pendulum guy and hit him. You don't ever know. You gotta do all kinds of shit at the table. But seriously, I mean, you can tell somebody, look, you crowd me while I'm trying to shoot. I'll be glad to step out of the way when you shoot if you'll step out of the way when I shoot. And if they don't want to do that, give them the elbow. You got a left
you're
hand.
you're yeah, you're nicer than me. I usually change my toss and hit them. If they're on this side and I'm shooting like this, I just go like that, and I'm like, man, I'm shooting the dice. You got to give me room. Or if or as in Samstown in Biloxi when I was shooting the dice and the whole table was empty, and all of a sudden this guy came in and he just stood right there with his chips, and I'm like, I'm shooting, and he just stood there. So I just changed the dice. My friend Brian was with me. I just changed the dice and I went like this, and I slapped the shit out of him. He walked away.
Well,
The dice went. The dice went cattywampus. By the way,
Those aren't the polite answers everybody wants us to give.
I don't think it is either, so let's move on. Mudslide Max says, I like to keep the same set, but change what numbers are on top and facing me to influence the number I want to hit. This is based on seeing how the toss and table are functioning together. That's kind of long. It's more of a statement than a question. Any
I
comments
mean,
from either one of you?
Mudslide is a classic guy. Love him to death. He's an old school craps player, and he is an old school par type tosser. I mean, he plays around with a few different grips. But when he's talking about changing his set, he's not. He says he's not changing his set. What he's probably not changing is his axis, and he's just kind of changing the set based on the things he's seeing. So he is changing his set. He's just not changing his axis. That's what I would say.
Okay. All right.
Hey, I have a question. How much is a stamp? Because I have 18 requests for chips so far.
They're going up. They went up yesterday, I think.
Yeah, it went up yesterday. 68 cents a stamp.
Holy crap! I gotta go buy some stamps.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
bought
Buy
a
them
mess of
forever
forever
stamp.
stamps. Yep, I bought a mess of forever stamps. Here's the next question. Question from Casual Slots. Do you think about what do you think about in reading, understanding your dice when they land on the table? Like if they implode, explode, double, single pitch, and then you rotate the dice or flip, move them to change the outcome. I know there's a lot of channels out there that emphasize the implode, the explode, the single pitch, double pitch. I'll put that back up there because that's a lot to read for both of you.
I can answer that question.
Okay.
First of all, I don't care as long as I'm getting paid on the number that shows. Number one. Number two, implode and explode is not my vocabulary, so I don't really know what that means. I know what on axis and off axis mean. And I do not change because I see one off axis and one on axis because that's about 50% of my tosses. So if I've got to change sets 50% of my tosses, I'm changing one time every two times I throw the dice, and that's flipping stupid in my opinion. You
All
can't
right.
build consistency with repeaters if you're constantly changing the flipping dice.
Okay. And Lou wants to know:
Groundwater might be talking.
do you tell the players that you're changing the dice sets if you're with a group at the table?
Depends on do you know them or do you not know them. If I don't know them, I don't give a shit if I tell them or not, right? If it's buddies and I say, I'm going to my horn set, that's a signal, right? I'll tell friends of mine. You've stood over me, Jeff. You've seen me change dice. You've seen me hunt for numbers. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But I don't have a problem hunting for the number, especially on the ATS table.
Right. Can you tell what the surface of the table is by the sound when the dice land?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
You want to
I
expand
know
on
If it's
a lot
that?
of
cracking,
YouTubers. I know
if
a
it
lot of
makes a hard
YouTubers
cracking
that
noise,
have hard tops, and they keep saying, "Oh, it's a bouncy table," and I'm like, "No, it isn't." I hear a clack.
might be
Answer,
a
JB.
hard surface for somebody to throw on, but it ain't a hard surface. I mean, it ain't it's an easy surface to throw on if it's a hard surface. Now, the thing is people like myself and Gargoil, we practice on bouncy. It takes me longer to get used to a hard surface table than it does a medium bounce table because I've got two layers of felt underneath my surface. So, I'm used to I practice on a little bouncier surface. He practices on trampoline. So, um, but if you get dialed in on a hard surface table and they're clacking, you're landing them flat. Generally, you can make some good runs.
All right. Gee, Carlos wants to know what the name of that toy is that you used.
Uh,
I don't. He ain't listening.
no, I'm listening. I'm trying to think. It's on Amazon. It's a hand imprint thing. I'll look. I'll Google it. Oh, JB's gonna have a conniption fit because I'm googling, but that's okay. Um, By the way,
All
I was
right.
going to say something about the other question, and I forgot
Oh,
what was being
sorry, I
asked.
moved on. I don't even know what the question was now without backing up.
About the
Hard
heart, can
surface.
you tell about the
Yeah.
table?
Oh yeah, yeah. So next session is going to be about mindfulness. I'll show you how you can tell if the table is bouncy just by looking at it, at the layout, and I'll
Okay.
prove it. I'll have layouts to show you.
All right. Julio wants to know, do you have a specific set you guys like to use for inside and outside numbers? And I say this all the time. What one set works for one person may not work for the other, but the question was asked. Let's see if you guys can answer it.
That is the correct answer. You know, three V's, but are not all three V's are not created equal. Some three V's that I throw will give me some outside numbers, and some will give me inside numbers. Two V's, same way. They're not all created equal. And just because you see threes on top or twos on top doesn't mean you're going to hit outside or inside. Um, a more forgiving set for many people, as they're learning, is a cross six set. They will hit an array of numbers, but if they're solid with their mechanics, they'll end up with a decent repeater somewhere in there, and probably have a good chance at an ATS as well.
Yep. I like what El
Hey
Toro
Jeff.
says there. Hold on one second, G. I like what El Toro says. He says changing the dice set doesn't fix the root cause of the issue. I like that.
No,
Yeah.
it's mechanics. The mechanics are always the issue.
Just look at me. Look what I just did. It's the toss. It's the grip and the toss, not the set. The name of it is 3D Pin Art Toy. 3D
What
Pin
was it?
Art
What
Toy.
was it again? 3D what?
3D Pin Art Toy. You can get it on Amazon. It's like 19.99 or something like that.
There. There. All right. Let's see. Let's go back to the other side here and see if they have if I missed any questions, guys. We're coming up on the 2 hour mark, so if you have a question, you can answer it. We're going to go back and talk about percentages, and I think Heavy already answered it on the other chat. I don't know that I displayed it, but this comes from Clay. So 45% means 55% off axis. Why not try to improve the off axis and use the sets accordingly? Just a question. He's kind of throwing that out there.
You
Well,
don't
we all
want to.
strive to improve our own access.
Say that again, Ed. You both were talking at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, G. I didn't mean to speak over you. Um, I always try to improve my own access, obviously, but at 50% or at 49%, let's just say you're at 49%. If you're throwing the right sets consistently with the same consistent mechanics, and you've used some mechanism like Bone Tracker or expertise with your eyeballs, you can figure out what set you need to use based on your off-axis results that you're getting. You can have definitive influenced outcomes regardless of the axis toss. But we want to improve that. The more on axis you are, the more sevens you move further away from the outcome. Because when you're on axis, you're playing the way we throw, the way I throw. I'm playing with two sevens. I got two sevens on axis. The rest of them are off axis. So which do I want to play with? Do I want to swim? I've asked this before on this station channel. Do we want to swim in a tank with two sharks, or do we want to swim in a tank with four sharks or six sharks? You pick your poison. I'm going to go with the one with two sharks or two sevens.
All right. Question from Douglas. How do you reduce the rotation of the dice when throwing the par shot?
Ooh, good question.
That is a good question. And there,
So grip has a lot to do with it. Um, let me demonstrate something. So the par toss, you shoot it like this, and you've seen it. You can also shoot it like this, and hit all the way at the back wall. Let me back up a little bit, but it's the same rotation, but watch what it does to the dice. It let bouncy table, but because of how I threw it, it slowed down on a regular table, it will deaden the bounce. All I did was it's still the backspin, but I did it like this, and I slowed down the rotation. Now the sign is over there. I'm not gonna take the camera, but next session you'll see the sign. It says no spin zone. I don't put any spin on the dice. You'll see me throw the par shot to demo it, but my drop shot, when the one that I use from here, there's no spin. The dice go straight in the air, um, because I I I don't like spinning dice unless it's like um, an off axis. And by the
Can,
way, you don't want to work on an off axis toss to make it better on axis, because 9 times out of 10 people are setting the sevens and tossing it. So if you get it better, all you're gonna get is sevens.
can you throw
Just
can you throw
FYI.
that release again? I'm going to zoom in on you, G. When you throw that release, take a look at the
I,
shot before
I've
you
been
throw it.
doing bad job at showing things, man. Okay, you want to give others content, haters content. Okay, so
There's not that many here. We've got a few, but not many.
so it's it's a flea. It's the horizontal flea flicker.
Well,
You're
I didn't ask
flicking
for
the
that
dice.
one, but you can go ahead and show it. Yeah, go ahead.
You're flicking the dice up. You're flicking the dice up. See how they barely made it to the back wall.
All right. All right. I just
People
want.
that
I
people
actually,
don't know
actually,
that there are eight ways to throw the flea flicker. You can throw it
uh,
vertical, horizontal. You can throw it this way, but we'll leave that one alone.
yep.
Let me say a
I
couple things to
yeah. Go
answer
ahead,
the
Ed.
question from a different perspective. Um, I'm kind of built weird, and so if I'm wanting to throw a drop shot, when a drop shot has no rotation, that's the idea. You're just kind of, it's almost like a knuckleball. It's just floating in the air as you released it, and they just land. I use the Uri grip, which is totally flipping backwards to 99.9% of the world. But for some reason, if I put a Uri grip on and I put the corners of the dice down, I can just pick it up and just drop it. And I don't put any rotation on it. The other thing is, if I'm using the par toss, the three fingered on axis par toss, then if you want less rotation, move it further to the closer to the back wall. In other words, if I'm shooting that way right there, and instead of lining it up under my nose, I might move those dice all the way out here somewhere, just under my armpit, maybe just a little bit left of my armpit. That's going to be less rotation just by the way the dice are set up. That's a trick fix, if you want to call it that. Otherwise, you just got to learn not to just, it's not a wrist flip anyway. And a lot of people get a lot of rotation because they're doing a big wrist flip, but they're not tossing it. And I read a perfect example on Heavy's board today. It was by Kev the Carpenter, and he described it as, and I'm giving him full credit for this description, as a painter using a sash brush and trying to get a level stroke on the paint. He's just level, very slow and easy off the table.
Yeah, I
That gives
played
you
with
less
Kevin.
rotation.
Yeah, I played with Kevin.
So Jeff, here is a
Yes.
Uri grip drop shot. So that's the Uri grip right here, and just do it like that. Again,
Nice
dice
outcome.
went, but that's a Uri grip drop shot. Um,
Okay.
what Ed was talking about, get the par shot closer to the wall, and I'm not really setting the dice, so I don't care about the end result. If you go like that, On a bouncy table, that's what's going to happen. But on a semi-bouncy table, the dice is going to just land right there. My problem is I'm trying to show mechanics on a bouncy table, and this is not a teaching table. But that's okay.
All right. Let's move on to another question. To roll the bones, Joe. G does not. Gargoyle does not have a YouTube channel, so we can answer that. He's been appearing on Ed's channel quite frequently, and Ed and I have been doing a couple of rollouts where we're actually taking turns shooting. So just keep the notification bell on, and you'll catch him. I guess the question would be, G, do you have plans for a YouTube channel?
Yeah,
Is that
I
a
plan
yes?
not to get one.
Did
Yes,
we hear
I
that
plan not
first
to get
here?
one. No, no, no,
Okay.
no. Yes, you're hearing it first. I plan not to get one.
Oh, plan not to. I missed that word. My
Yeah.
hearing's bad. You know how it goes. All right,
I
a
don't
couple
know if
questions.
Dan, I don't know if Dan is still on or not. But did is he? I did this demo with the 3D print for him. So I hope he's good with that.
Dan's a good one. He'll go back and watch the show again, so hopefully that he did, because that question was asked a while ago. Here's a couple questions about shooters. This first question comes from the Pit Boss himself. As a shooter, as a shooter is in the zone, do you agree that the shooter should be not bothered other than calling out good dice results after the release and cheer after the great outcome? And he goes on and is going to say that the positive energy at the table, he has seen it, and he said it many times on Ed's and my show, that positive energy equals positive results at the table.
Thank you. How many times have you heard me say that? Energy, positive energy. Yes, that's why sometimes I'm all alone by myself shooting dice because, oh man, I'm
And
gonna
I,
get
I
killed up.
think he's right. I mean, the question
Because
on,
don't players bring negative energy. I don't know how else to say it, but if you're playing the don't, you're either wishing or you're guessing the seven's gonna come out, and this is negative energy for me. So that's why I don't play on a table with don't players, and I don't play the don't. I like positive energy.
Ed,
Good.
did you have something you were going to say?
yeah, he was talking about put that if you can. I don't know if you can, but he's talking about if the shooter's in the zone, right? I mean, we get in a
Yeah.
zone where you're on a good roll, you're hitting points, you're hitting numbers over and over. I do agree that the shooter should not be bothered. I mean, there are some shooters that'll run laps around a circle, but I'm not one of them. I'm one of them that I don't even want you to, give me a fist bump, something like that, while they're making a payout. Other than that, you know, don't hit me on my, don't punch me. I've had guys punch me on my shooting shoulder before. I mean, like hit me hard, like boom. I'm like, dude, that's my shooting arm. Don't do that. Um, I get in a zone. I don't want to be interrupted. I'm going to stare at something. I'm going to stare at the puck. I'm going to stare at the TV while everything else is going on. And I see that motion of the dice coming back to me. Then I'm back in focus or stayed in focus. You stay in that zone. I don't want to have a conversation. Not that I'm rude. I just want to make some money real quick.
I did find the chat that I wanted to put up here, and G, let me read this for you comment. This comes from God Complex. Mood and atmosphere matter on the game. I tell you to keep it in the zone. Every good roll, that player knows what I mean, stays in the zone. Don't allow the distractions to take your head out of it.
Exactly.
That's why you hear me say, I know I used to get really pissed off, and Heavy would be proud of me because I'm a new man. I know what I have control of, and other things I can't control. If I'm in the zone, I just try to stay here. Whatever's happening is happening. I wish people wouldn't bother me, but I can only concentrate, and I only have control on what I'm doing. Most of the time, I'm the only one at the table, so the dealers are chit chatting about unpaid and on vacation, and they can't take a vacation, and they're pissed and mad. I try to zone that out. I give them tips and say, "Hey, concentrate on my money, please. Your money is on my money." There are ways you can deal with that stuff, but in the evenings when I'm out with friends and stuff like that, yeah, whatever, high fives, whatever. But if I do ever get in the zone, they know. When they see the sweat dropping from the table, they know I'm in the zone, and money starts stacking up. For some reason, the more I sweat, the better I roll. And I keep telling them, no, the dice is sticking, but they say, no, you're rolling better. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but he's
Yep.
absolutely right.
Nope, I agree with you. Today on my show, my daytime show today, I was sweating. I had a gray colored shirt on, and I sweat so bad. But I had back to back good rolls. I had a 21 and a 17 back to back. And one of the people here earlier on my side of the channel said that I was in the zone today, staying on Axis, and I went back and watched that, and I don't know, G and Ed, what I was doing right at that time. Not right at the time, but what was I doing that's different than any other time beside the sweat pouring off my forehead, landing on the table as G just described. So I don't know if you guys could go back and watch that. Go to the third and fourth roll, and you'll see 21 and a 17 back to back. And I don't know what I did that was correct. Was it luck? I don't know. But 21 and 17, you take those two hands back to back any day of the week.
Well,
Oh, absolutely.
I think Alfredo said it best. Don't bother the shooter. I said, don't bother the shooter.
Go ahead, Ed. You're getting ready to say something.
I know. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm laughing.
I did tell him that he's not
Checking
making
stuff
fun of
on.
him. He's like, no, I know you don't. You guys are fun. He's good. He's
All right.
cool with that.
Did you have a comment, or we're going to move on, Ed?
Keep moving.
All right, let's go. All right, this comes from Clueless Craps. I don't know that name before. It says if a shooter who is throwing random were to ask you to swap positions with you to better their shot, would you? And would you swap with someone you don't know who is setting the dice? And I'm going to premise that with another chat earlier that they were watching some of Big AZ's channels when he records that everybody kind of shoots from stick, with the majority of them shoot from stick left one. So back up to this question here from Clueless Craps. I'll put it up again. If somebody asked you to move, would you? Would you swap
Absolutely.
places with them?
Because I want them to move out of my way, so I'll move out of their way. If I ain't
Okay.
shooting, what do I care? All I'm doing is making bets.
Right, right. And speaking of bets, would you agree with God Complex that as the shooter, do you not agree with your role and bets should follow the KISS, keep it simple, stupid syndrome? No complicated, weird ass late bets, no weird 102 on the 6 and 8.
Late bets and early, as Heavy says.
Yep.
Yeah.
For me, you keep them simple, but you need to know. Okay, I just pressed that 8 to whatever number, but when you pressed it, you should automatically know if you hit that 8 again, what your next move is before you even have the dice moved to you. You should practice like you play and practice those betting progressions over and over and over, so that all you got to do is just say it when you hit it. And if you can't think of it, if you're in a spastic moment and you just, you're spazzing out and you can't think, just say same bet.
I like
Sometimes
that.
I'll look down, I'll lean over and I'll look at the chips and I say, is that 42 on that? And they go, yeah. I say, same bet. And I don't know whether I'm supposed to went to 90 or whether sometimes you just forget where you're at. But, there's nothing wrong with just automatically just saying same. If you can't think of it, just say same bet and just keep moving. You don't want to chew your own self down. Keep those progressions moving.
All right. Here's a nice comment from your friend Mudslide just a little while ago. Gentlemen, it's a complicated skill, and how it works is open for interpretation. Thanks for shining some light on it. So we thank you,
We're trying,
Mac.
whether they agree with us or not, Mac. We're still trying.
Yep.
A lot of what we said tonight were opinions. That science stuff, that's from books and articles. It's not from a Word document or, Grease Monkey Henry or whatever. But other than that, it's just opinions and experiences what we have at the table.
Well, we didn't show those slides tonight, G. With what the slides that we were using as far as the rules, if you will, our opinions, and we probably should have
Our
The
disclaimer.
disclaimer.
We didn't
a
put our
disclaimer.
disclaimer up there.
Well,
Nothing we
did
said
you
is
ask,
fact.
did you ask
All
Justice Jen? Did you ask
I,
Justice Jen if we
Well,
can use her?
I did, but it would have taken us 35 minutes to read the fine print from her in order to get the disclaimer on there. But what I wanted to say was these are opinions, and they're based off your actual real results from both of you. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm here to moderate this show. It's
Anything that you do that we say could cost you money.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right, let's change subject up here. We're going to finish up on tonight. I'm going to go back because you guys were talking about people that are standing too close to you, and I saved this post from El Toro because I kind of liked it. So we're going to go back in time almost 20 minutes ago, and I like when he said this. I'm going to put this up here. Both of you are going to get a chuckle on this. El Toro says, "On the other subject, bitch slapped a chip rack. Oops, I'm sorry." I like that.
Yeah, make them go chasing their go make them go chase their chips around the casino floor for
The
a few
money.
minutes.
And there you go. El Toro Asti says he actually agrees with the pit boss, who happens to be with us tonight, and we appreciate that. Look at this. Let's take this one down. Remember, even a random roller can have a great roll. Just recognize a zone roll and progress your bets slower, but keep that pressing or keep that press.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, you get to a point. I don't know. Let's just say you're at 42 on a 6 and 8 both, and they keep rolling them, and you're happy for a little while collecting, 50 for one, and then you go, well, let's see if they'll roll some more, and then you go, well, just take me to 90, because at that time, when you go on up, you just got to say, I don't care, I'll collect 105 for a little while. Then if you just got to make that decision as you go and where you are as well in the session with your buy-in. You've got to make those decisions on where you are with your total trip or whatever it is you're doing. Whether you're just if you're driving by from work, I don't get that luxury. Versus are you going somewhere for a weekend, that kind of thing. So you got to keep management of your rack, management of your bankroll involved. Are you happy just collecting 50 for one, or do you want to go ahead and do 105 for 90 at some point?
Right.
Whatever.
And EF, you are correct. The longest roll has been done by a random roll. That is a fact. However, I have been at the table with some people that are very versed in what Ed has done, and Gargoil has talked tonight. I've never shot with Gargoil. I have shot with Ed on multiple occasions, and the proof is in the pudding because I've seen it. Does Ed 7 out early? Yes, he does. I mean, everybody's going to 7 out. Does he point 7 out? Yes, he does. But you're right. The fact is that a random roller has the longest roll. 4 hours at the Borgata. That's correct.
And nobody ever
Jeff,
talks about how many sevens
Jeff,
come out sevens you had either.
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So Jeff, I'm gonna add on to this, and let's be serious for a second. I've always disliked the term Randy or stuff because or this guy is not setting the dice, so I'm gonna play the don't on them because you don't know if that person is gonna have a short roll, a long roll, or anything. You anybody picking up the dice and throwing could PSO or have a long roll. It doesn't matter whether you've been setting the dice for 100 years or you just turned 21 and walked up the craps table. You don't know. I don't care who you are, what you are, where you came from, who your mother was, who your daddy was. You don't know. So quit making these statements about, oh, it's a Randy, so I'm going to play the don't on them because you don't fucking know. Be real. You don't have to put money on them. You don't have to put your money. You don't have to even play on the same table. But don't hate someone or dislike someone or make statements against someone just because they're not doing what you're doing. They're not setting the dice. Oh, I'm gonna play the don't. They're just a Randy. That Randy could roll an ATS and make you $20,000 if you're putting 100 on it. I've made more money on the ATS. I'm going to say it slowly so that people can understand. I've made more money on the ATS by people not setting the dice than I made on people setting the dice. Everybody hear me? I've made more money on the ATS from people not setting the dice than people setting the dice because people setting the dice hit certain numbers unless they change dice sets, which I don't. People not setting the dice, they roll random numbers. They could hit the 2 all the way to the 12. So let's be real. Let's be real here. You don't know. Stop calling them Randys and non-dice setters and this and that and the other. You don't know. Treat people with respect at the table.
Like it. Like it. All right. I God complex. I'm not sure if you saw the question I put up here from Chris Demon Dog. He wanted to know if you were in the minority of how. Where'd it go? Shoot, I've lost it. Here it is. This one here. If you can answer that before the show's over with, it's for God Complex. Are you in the minority of pitball stealers on your thoughts on the crap trends in DI? So I'd be interested to know that as well. Also, we got a question here. Duracell8 wants to know, have you smashed the like button? So that's a I guess I'm
I
running
did
out.
a dislike on yours by mistake.
I don't do anybody smash the like button on my side.
I don't care if they hit the dislike button. As long as they hit it, it affects the algorithm. So it doesn't make any difference. But hopefully, right now, we're still holding true at about 130 on two channels. I don't want to close it out here with this many people that are actually still watching. Guys, if you have some questions, G's tired. Ed had a long day at work. We're here for a few more minutes. Get your questions in, and we'll get them answered. We've got to talk about the next segment, too, G. So it looks like maybe
Well, I mean,
February.
if we got people watching, if we, I'm willing to stay a little bit longer. I don't know about Ed, but I'm willing to stay a little bit longer. If they got questions, let them, we're here.
That's what I've just put the final call out. This is it, the final call, last call for questions, and last call for Ed to fill his glass up or tip it up or whatever it is up a little bit there.
We'll get
I
some
gotta get,
more,
I
Ed.
gotta get my Mountain Dew bottle like I'm at a baccarat table and take a leak.
All right, G, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, it looks like the next date is February 6th. Does that coincide with your calendar and Ed's calendar? This will
I
be
don't
a
know. You're the
mindfulness.
boss.
Well,
You're the
February
boss.
6th looks. Yeah, February 6th looks good for me. The 2 weeks after that, I may not be here because I may be in AC for the 5-time weekend. But February 6th looks good. We'll talk about that. But mindfulness is coming up on the next show. We're going over the 4Ms. Do you want to, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, do you want to
Yeah.
talk about what to expect next time?
Yeah, it's just being mindful of your surrounding, and I'll talk about what I do during a trip from start to finish, as far as how I can. I'll give you pointers on what to tell, what table, and a lot of people don't play in the morning; they play in the evening, but it doesn't matter. The same pointers work whether it doesn't matter what time you play. Um, Mindfulness about if you go in a group, how you can help each other. It's just some of it is common sense. Other of it is just like, hey, little pointers here and there. And then the one after that, hopefully sideshow would be ready, and then we do our first um, live help session.
Okay. All right. James Newberry's asked a question here. What is the percentage that either one of you, hit the ATS? I don't know that there's a percentage, but do you track that at all, either one of you?
I track it based on because I have a separate bankroll. I track it based on my bankroll, and um, it's a low percentage, but when I hit it, um, it builds it back up. Some idiot put a comment out there the other day is that you know the eyes don't bet the max on the ATS. I bet whatever the casino will allow me to bet. At the Bellagio, I put 200, 200, 200 because they can go up to 200.
Wow.
Down in Biloxi, I think it's some of them are 10, some are 25. If I'm shooting, I'm putting the max on the ATS. The percentage of hits is low, but when it hits, it makes up your losses and more because of the bonus.
It's a bonus. That's exactly what it is. Yep.
You make your
Um,
living hitting box numbers. You make your living
yes.
at this game and hitting box numbers. The bonus is a bonus. All right,
Yes.
so it's a lot easier. I bet heavier on each end than I do in the middle. Let's just say 10, 5, 10, for example. Now, I've been known to go 10, 10, 10. But I mean, it's easier to hit a side than it is the all. All right. But so I will tend to go heavier on each side. I'm going to tell you up front, 2-1-2 does not excite me. I just soon not have it be a table. I'm never going to bet that low. I mean, it's going to be 5-5-5, 10-5, 10, 10, 10, 10, or quarter, quarter, quarter. All right. So, I mean, if I hit the darn thing, I want to get paid. I want to have a payday. And it ain't going to cost me that much to shoot for it. I mean, it's only 10 numbers.
Right. All right. Let's keep it moving.
It's just 10 numbers. It's just 10 different numbers. You just got to roll. It ain't hard. It's just 10 numbers.
Go ahead,
Ed,
Gene.
I have a bone to pick with you. I have
You
a
what?
bone to pick with you. What?
Pick it.
You like Kelly in your chat?
I have Kelly. I do.
Kelly's in the
The guy
chat.
built my table is in the chat.
He's
He's a good friend of
you
mine.
know, well, okay, so you're the moderator. Tell him to stop picking on me. I'm sensitive.
Oh, I'm the moderator. I'm
I'm
not
gonna
sure
tell
who
him
you.
that. He knows you. He can pick on you all he wants
So,
to.
That's right.
so folks in the chat, Kelly Knox is the one that did his table. He's the one that did my table and the layout, the surprise layout. So he's I didn't know he was listening. We're gonna go to Murphy sometime, Kelly. I promise you.
Yeah, I owe Kelly another trip myself.
Yep.
All right, so let me back up one question. It's going to flow into the second question. This comes about 30 minutes ago. Louise wants to know. Thanks, Gargoil, Ed, and Jeff. Very informative video. Now back to practicing on my table. And where was the other one? I had that right here. Sorry. The real question is. When y'all gonna be at the casino so we can see the action in play? And before you answer, Ed, I'm gonna come down here to this question from your good friend Puckoff: Brownwater Bash, Tunica, Biloxi, or both? So we're gonna kind of like switch all three of those.
I'm hoping for both. Fuck off. I'm waiting. I'm waiting on a date of. I've given my host in Tunica a date in April, and she's supposed to be getting with her bosses and giving me a date. And if she doesn't respond accordingly, we'll just move on to Biloxi. But I'm hoping. I'm planning on both.
Okay. All right.
So
I'm hoping.
and what I would tell,
Hell,
I
I
would
might
tell
even do
folks.
Vegas. I might even do Vegas before the year's over. Wouldn't that be? I'll go find
And,
God Complex and shoot at his table.
yeah, and what I would tell. Come on, man. Yeah, I found my balls, but what I would tell folks is that if they see me at the table, you know, talk to me, but treat me as any shooter. I could at any given time throw a 30 roller or PSO. Just because I do these shows with Ed and I practice doesn't mean that I can walk up to the table and just burn it. Um, you gotta quit listening to these hustlers that are all talk and never you never see them at the casino. We're Ed and I are real
Everybody,
people. We're real
everybody
people.
PSO,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
I've done it.
So
And people don't qualify people enough. You know, I've had people that I've become friends with, despite them losing money on my toss. I had a guy one time, and he's a great guy, and he's got a beautiful toss himself. But I'm at the freaking Gold Coast with all them newbie dealers, and I've been sitting there for 4 hours trying to play craps, and while they learn how to deal, and I'm aggravated, I'm starving, I'm hungry, and all of a sudden this guy that I know, he comes in and he bet 640 across, and I PSO, and I'm like, I hope you learned your freaking lesson. You didn't qualify me before you bought in. You didn't qualify me before you made your bets. So that was your expensive lesson. I'm going to go find me something to eat right now. And I colored up and left. Because number one, I felt bad because the guy did that. But number two, it wasn't my fault that he did that. Might have been my fault I threw a PSO. Probably was, but it wasn't my fault he bet 640 across on me and he hadn't even seen me throw yet today. That's his fault.
All right, let me throw this out here real quick before Gargoyle jumps in there. Question from Dan D for God Complex on the other channel. Do you believe in DI, and how often do you see gamblers throw consistently good throws? All right, G, go ahead with your comment. I know you were getting ready to say something.
but I was gonna say, if people want to see me throw so that they can come back and say, "Man, Gargoyle throws shitty," let me save you money. Just look at what I've been doing tonight. Look at my last crapsy session. Of course, I throw shitty. You don't have to go to the casino to see me do that. But if you ever see me at the casino, come talk to me. There are no guarantees when you step on the table. You do your best. You do your best. But I have confidence in me. I put money on me. But you qualify me. If you're somebody at the table, qualify me. I do things because I'm comfortable doing it. But I'll qualify. Well, I will qualify Ed very little bit. I still put money on him, but I will qualify him very little bit. Perhaps he's making me change my mind as many times as he's been being selling lately. But um, qualify people. Don't expect just grander. What's the word? 50 roll hands as soon as we walk up to the table. It, it's beautiful if it happens, but you know, be realistic.
All right. That comes back to the mentality of the shooter. There's nothing to do with anybody else at the table. All right. My mentality is I'm going to have a long run every time I touch the dice. My mental state is I'm going to have a long roll. If I didn't think I was going to have a long roll, I'd probably play blackjack. Right? Now, do I always have long rolls? No, absolutely not. I can PSO as quick as anybody. I've got the stats to prove it on this computer. You know, threes, fours, twos, zeros, back-to-back sevens, all those things. But my mentality is I'm going to be Ed, and Ed is going to play his game. All right, so that don't mean that it's going to work, but that's my mentality. And if I didn't have that mentality, I'd go find something else to do.
All right.
I would not play slots.
Yep. All right. So to the
I would
question
not.
that Dan asked about the DIs and you see longer rolls, God Complex answers it this way. Let me get that off the screen. Players who set dice top of my head throw more rolls than the average roller. So there's 30 years experience in the business and longtime casino person who just gave up that he's in the
He
Detroit
sees
area.
hundreds. He sees hundreds, if not thousands, of
Yep.
tosses in a shift. I don't know how many they
Yep.
see, but he's seeing a
Yep.
shit pot full of tosses. And so there you go.
Let me hit this one up. DC, to answer your question about Bone Tracker, if you go back to about an hour into the show, we've been streaming now 2 hours and 36 minutes. You'll actually see Heavy Haltom, Steve here, who's on his forum. You can download the Bone Tracker. We had a short discussion about Bone Tracker. You can go back on Ed's archives of our lives from probably 4 months ago, and Ed does an excellent demonstration of Bone Tracker. But yes, to answer your question, I know you probably just got to the show late. We do Bone Tracker. Go ahead, Ed.
And number one, I use it a lot, many, many years. I use it now if I have questions about my toss. If I believe that my toss has changed, I'll go to Bone Tracker and see, did it change or was it my imagination? All right. The other thing is, and this is a short commercial, excuse me, Jeff, I'm
That's all
getting
right.
ready to do a Bone Tracker video or videos on my Patreon channel. So getting ready for that. I've already got one book done. I've almost got two books done. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to bring the first book in, show people how I used it, what the results were, and what it said I probably should do. All right. And then I said, okay, now it's time for me to verify what it said because it changed me over a little bit to a slightly different set. And so I am now in the process of trying to verify whether or not it was correct or really, really close or totally out of the window. So we'll see.
Um,
So,
yeah.
so real quick. I don't know who PG is, but he says Color Up has a video of
I,
Gargoil shooting
I,
at the
I was
casino.
getting ready to get to that.
I'm
Oh,
in
okay.
God Complex. I am in.
So, Color Up is Jeremy of the Color Up channel. He's the number one craps channel there is. And evidently, I did not know this. There is a video of you shooting at a casino. Maybe you don't know. I will put a email in or a phone call into Jeremy and ask him if he's familiar with that. I'd actually like to see that myself, more from a comical standpoint than anything else.
I like to see that myself. I want to get the popcorn and the soda and laugh.
I got
That
pictures.
video,
I got pictures of a guy humping on his leg. I can bring those up.
I saw those
and
pictures. Oh
so,
my
so let me
gosh.
put it this way: if there's a video out there, I'm not aware of, and it was taken without my permission. But that's
All
fine.
right.
Um, you know.
Let's go ahead and close this out tonight. The two questions on how you qualify a shooter. One comes from Tom Marco. The other one comes from, I just slid past it, from Craig Hazen. How do you qualify a shooter? What are your criteria of either one of you? Who wants to go first?
Well, there was two questions up there. The one other one's how do I qualify myself, right?
Yeah, there is a how you qualify
How
yourself
do I
too. This next
qualify
one.
my
Yep.
agent?
So it's a three-part question there.
All right, so it's not uncommon to see me go up there, set whatever the point is. If the point's a 6 or 8, yay. If it's not, then it's whatever. You're going to see me bet the 6 and 8. I'm going to put some probably 2 times odds on the point, and then you're going to see me do a field bet and a come bet. And that's a slight miniature hedge. You can not do the field bet, but I'm going to do the field bet with it because if I can throw for a 9, that's what I'm going to try to shoot a 9. Quite frankly, because I want the inside. And in Mississippi, if I hit a 9, let's just say I hit a 5. Let's say I'm screw it up and I hit a 5. Well, 20 pays 29. I can take $9, put it in the rack, and place the 9 for 20. But if I hit the 9 at 15, all right, so then I got 30. I can go to 20 and put $10 in my rack and just try to shoot inside. But if it's a come bet, the come bet's going to travel. All right, come bet's going to travel. Let's say it went to the 9, if that's what I was shooting for, and if I hit it, okay. All right, then I get $30 on the field with my original bet, $30 total. I can put whatever odds, I can put the whole 30 on there and just shoot for the inside and try to hit that 9, knock that 9 back off. If I hit that 9 in Mississippi, I'm going to 80 on the next deal because I've won enough to go ahead and place $80 and try to get 116 on the next hit. That's kind of my mental thinking that I'm trying to do to qualify myself. And so really what I'm saying is, am I hitting the numbers I expect to hit, or am I getting something else? So do I need to adjust my betting and what I plan to do versus, or do I need to change to what's happening versus what I thought I might be able to do? And that's going to change every time you have a come out session.
Okay. All right. As we wrap up the show here, guys, I like El Toro. He said this about 8 minutes ago. There you have it. The DI shooter just unraveled. You got some good one-liners there,
All
El Toro.
He's talking about Ed or me.
I'm not sure. But guys, let me indulge just 1 second. I know this isn't my show; I'm just a moderator. But I want to put this up here. Look at this question. This is really hard to choose from. This is a hypothetical. Super Mario says, Jeff, if you could only have 2 players at the table, who would it be? Who would you take? Ed and Gargoyle, that's one choice. Dom and Scoblet as another choice. Heavy and Dark Nader, and 4 would be Dice Coach and Howard. And to be honest with you, that's not fair because I would mix them up a little bit, and I don't want Ed or Gargoyle to be upset with me. But I think I'd probably have to go with number 3. I'd like to be at the table with Heavy and Dark Nader. You two aren't offended by me answering that question that way, are you, Ed or Gargoyle?
No, that's my choice.
Yeah, I thought so. There's the answer. I might switch them up a little bit.
What's your name again? I'm not offended.
Yeah, Super Mario. Yep. Yeah.
No,
So,
I'm talking about you.
I got you. What's my name? Thank you. What's my name? Say my name.
Let me say this.
I think
Put that
Heavy
list
just
back
got
up there. Can
offended.
you put that list
No,
back
I
up?
think Heavy just got offended because he was put in the same sentence as Dom. Let's go, lady.
No, he wasn't in the same sentence. No,
Right.
It's Heavy and Darth Nader together.
I've played
I know, but it's the
by
same question.
accident. I played by accident with Gargoyle once, right? I played with Heavy and Darth Nader a bunch. I have never played with Dice Coach. I know him. We've had dinner. We've had conversations, and I've played with Howard. All right, and so there's a lot of great history amongst all those shooters, but you give me a choice, I'm going to play with the guys I know, and I know Heavy. I know Heavy's toss. I know Darth Nader. I know his toss, and I know he's going to tell me when he's changing sets and what he's shooting for. And I know based on playing with like Nader, I know that certain sets might give him, for example, a 4 instead of a 6. So I'm going to bet the 4. And I've been ahead of him on a press before on the 4s by like $100. And he's shooting 6s and 6s and 4s, but he jumped on the 4s late because mentally he's thinking 6s and 8s or something. But I mean, somebody, their shots. And another guy that's not on there is 220 inside. I know him well, and I'll play with him any day, even when he's not happy about his toss.
All right.
You played with him. You played with him, Jeff.
Yep.
Willis.
Yep. Yep. Well, I just didn't want to offend either one of you when I chose Steve and Nate. I just didn't want you guys to get pissed at me.
No, I don't care. That was my choice.
We don't care. We're not.
So I guess I answered it right. If you will, can you indulge me just a second so I can do a little promo here, Ed? I didn't ask for permission, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Can I do this?
Do whatever you
real
like,
quick?
dude. You've earned it.
All right, here we go, guys. So coming up next Monday night on my channel and on the Casino Gaming TV YouTube channel is going to be a show where I am going to be interviewing. I'm trying to get my mouse to cooperate with me, and it's not doing it. I'm going to be interviewing the original Craps interviewer. That's Dave Carlin. Most of you may know Dave, some of you may not, but it's next Monday night, the 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. I will be interviewing the man, the myth himself. Same Bet, Dave Carlin. He has 2 channels, Same Bet. He also has Rolling with Same Bet. And I hope that you guys will tune in because Dave has interviewed a lot of people, including Ed. I think once or twice he's interviewed you, Ed. And
Nice.
he's one hell of a guy. We're going to find out his story. We're going to hear about his craps journey and why he likes gambling and why he likes craps and what else did he play. And I really hope that you guys will tune in. It's not the dual stream will be on CGTV, but it'll also be on Mid-Atlantic Craps. While we have 115 people still here, I wanted to at least get that plug in, and my mouse batteries are messing up. So with that, Ed, I didn't ask you for permission to do that, but hell, I got the controls. What the hell?
Oh, no worries, man.
How am I going to stop you? How am I going to stop you, dude? I love Dave. Dave is a great guy, and I owe Dave. And please tell him if I know he won't hear this, but I owe him a debt of gratitude because when I first started my channel, he interviewed me very, very early, and it gave me a tremendous boost in viewership immediately. And I owe him a debt of gratitude for that. And then he brought me back in about a year later. Those interviews are still out there on his channel. And so I recommend anybody who hasn't watched his channel before, there's some great interviews out there. He's got a couple on there with Howard. He's got Heavy. He's got me a couple of times.
I got interviewed once.
He got a bunch of people. He's got a bunch of people on there. Some of them I like, some of them I don't like. I'm not going to name names.
Well, I mean, just to think about Dave and his journey, and he's when you look at the original, some of the people originally in the Craps Nation group, they're very humble people, and Dave is so down to earth. He's so meticulous as an interviewer. You'd think that's what he does for a living. That he's in some type of broadcast business, but his planning, his organization, and his delivery and the questions, and he keeps things moving. Unlike me, who just talks too much.
No, I like Dave a lot. I have a lot of respect for him. In fact, Heavy taught a class at his house before. So, he's a great guy. He is a great guy. And anybody who will open up a house for a bunch of strangers to come in and take a craps class is special. My wife, I'd have to send her to, visit family or something. She'd go paranoid.
All right. So let's go ahead and wrap it up here. I have one final question that I'm going to put up here. Mudslide wants to know what's next, guys. G, if you want to, we know the date's going to be the 6th of February. If you want to kind of give some insight as to what to expect next, we'll go from there.
Yeah, next show will be about, again, mindfulness. Talk about how you scout tables, How can you tell if a table is bouncy, too bouncy, not bouncy enough, just by looking at it, just by watching the dice? How to decide what you're gonna whether you're gonna play or not on a certain table? How to read people on the table? It's about being mindful and using common sense in the casino to get on a table that would give you the best odds. No guarantees, no guarantees, but gives you a better best odds that you maybe can make money.
Okay. All right, Ed. Any final words from you?
Well, Jeff, first I want to thank you again for being such a great moderator and assisting us with this show. I really, really appreciate you and what you've done for us here and for the viewers who've tuned in. I can't express my thanks to you enough. And I urge everybody to support you in any way they can. Uh, Outside of that, I appreciate the viewers. We do appreciate the viewers showing in, and I look forward to when we actually get Sideshow on here. If he don't show up, I'm gonna find somebody else, drag him in here, and we're gonna have some live sessions or something. We're gonna do this live as best we can. Once we get through next week, we're going to do this live on working. You've all seen me do a little bit with Sideshow before, but we're going to go more in depth. We're going to go as deep as
Yep.
we can, video allowing. There's nothing like hands-on in front of a student. That can't be duplicated, but we're going to try our best to give him tips and ideas and things we see and things to work on during a 2 week period when we come back. Then when we come back, we're going to work, see how he's tossing. We're going to critique it. We're going to continue to work on his toss until we get him. And my goal is to get him to an 8 SRR. I don't know what if Gargoil has that or not. I don't know if we'll get there, but that's the goal. We'd love to see a 7.5 to 8 SRR. That'd be fantastic.
Would be fantastic.
Yep.
All
Yep,
right.
and I'll echo what Ed said, Jeff. Thanks very much for everything you do, and the viewers. I mean, you guys are taking 2.5, 3 hours of your time watching. Evan Costello here trying to show you some stuff about dice, and and all the questions. It makes me want to stay here for another 3 hours because you guys
Not
you
me.
guys are the best.
Ed had a long day, but yes.
Yeah. We're not going to stay here for another 3 hours, but
Yeah.
you guys are what makes this possible, you know.
Yep. It
And
is.
So
and
you
I,
guys are the people watching it while we're doing it. Number one, and only number one, we want better shooters at the table. And if anything we do helps that happen, then good. We
Yep.
want better shooters at the table. Everybody
That,
profits that.
and that was one of the bullet points that is important for the goals we set for the show. With what you just said there, Ed. There's I might ask you to repeat it again just so people can understand the seriousness of the content that we're giving away. God Complex keeps making our heads swell with these comments, he says, but it is great. It is a good place to share content, and it was a good show. At least I feel so, Ed. But we are looking for better players, knowledgeable players at the table. We know there's always going to be new players, but we want to, I guess, educate and make sure people know that there's a lot to this game. A lot.
There's a tremendous amount. There's a mental aspect. There's a physical aspect. There's all kind of things involved. And I'm going to tell God Complex, email me at rolltowincraps@gmail.com. I know you're on Jeff's channel most of the time, if not all the time, and I don't blame you. But if you'll email me, I'd love to correspond with you
He will.
because I do like tweets.
Yep. All right. So, with that said, I'm going to answer Julio's question here. Would you use viewers to toss with you on one of your lives? This show is about constructive education and working with somebody. I'm not going to say that we wouldn't use a random viewer, but if you would like to come on my show, If all you need is a cell phone and you want to roll out on one of my shows, Julio, I'd be glad to have you on my channel. I do daytime shows, I do nighttime shows, but as far as this show goes, I can't answer that question because it's those two guys up there. It's their show. It's not my show. So, but sometimes we always need victims. So, anything else, Ed?
And speaking of victims, once we're done with Sideshow, we're gonna need another victim. And
There you have it.
it's gonna be one of our viewers. It's gonna be one of our viewers. You know, as long as they have a camera and they're willing to put the time in, we will consider it. We'll use Jeff's wheel of prizes to put the names in. But no, I'm serious. I mean, we want to take a you know a random viewer that wants to get better at the game, and as long as they're willing to put in the time and they have something that we can see, if Ed's willing, I'm willing.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and call the show here. We're 9 minutes away from 3 hours. We say it every single time that we're not going to.
An hour and 50 minutes too long.
Yep, an hour and 50
practice
minutes.
like you play, everybody. Play like you practice. Go roll to win.
And guys, I want to appreciate these two guys that are over that way. I have learned every time I run one of these shows, I learn something. To everybody out there, that's the viewers and the subscribers and the members to both the channels, thank you very much. Thank you for all the birthday wishes. Appreciate that, Jim. We'll see you on February 6th for the next episode of Unraveling the Mysteries of Dice Influence. And I think it's going to be a good one. This one exceeded my expectations. Till next time, guys, be safe. Play smart.